What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the What's Good Games podcast. I'm Andrea Renee, joined by Miss Brittany Brombacher. Hello. Miss Christine Steimer.
Oh, hi.
And very special guest, Brandon Jones is here.
Hello.
Brandon, it's so awesome to finally have you on the show. Yay. I'm so glad you're here.
It is awesome on my end as well.
So for folks who aren't aware, the voice, Brandon Jones, founder of GameTrailers.com. Also, one of the fantastic gentlemen over at Easy Allies. You can find them now at patreon.com/easyallies. And we're going to talk a little bit more about all the cool stuff that you guys are doing over there in just a little bit. But Brandon and I had the awesome opportunity to work together back at Defy Media. Oh, the good old days.
he just smiled. Smiles and nods.
Just a smile and a nod. Man.
I can go into detail. You just name the memory, and we can go into it. The ups and downs, good and bad.
Yeah, the sheer look of panic on Brandon's face when I think you guys first moved into the office, and the realization dawned on you that, oh yeah, a lot of the team is gone. We have to do all of this content with like a third of the people.
It's also going from a
days.
company that despised YouTube to a company that like was YouTube. They're like,
yeah.
These are basically the top channels of their respective departments on YouTube. Period. So get with the YouTube program. I remember going to a meeting like the first couple weeks that was like a 3-hour meeting just about thumbnails, and I was like, things have changed a little bit. This is a different ballgame.
Yeah, I
definitely
can say that about Defy. They were on top of the creator playbook. Obviously, as a giant media company that owns all of the brands, unlike a lot of MCNs or multi-channel networks who just partner with some brands, kind of like a maker studio of old, they really took a lot of pride and still take a lot of pride in making sure that their content looks and sounds the best and is optimized for the platform. And I'm always so happy to see how well they're doing over there. Our, former friends, well, still same friends, former colleagues, I should say, at Smosh Games, who are doing cool stuff. And of course, my clever team kicking ass over there on Clever TV, Clever News, Clever Fashion. I mean, they're just like crushing it right now. So happy for them. And Honest Trailers, always get a kick out of those.
Screen Junkies in general, love that team, and they definitely have had a roller coaster couple of years. But I think it's really exciting checking in with them, what they're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is where I also tell folks that this episode of What's Good Games is brought to you 100% free, courtesy of patreon.com/whatsgoodgames. We're going to talk to you more about that in just a little bit. But for now, there is a whopping section of news this week, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my gosh, we got lucky that the announcements all happened before we recorded the show this week, thankfully.
It never happens.
And Brittany had quite a week this week. Do you want to kick off the show with this Pokemon news?
I melted the fuck down. Yeah, let's do it.
Tell us all about your mental break.
So in the show notes, I just wrote Pokemon holy shit. So I want to read something before Brittany gets into the actual news. So a couple weeks ago, we got an email, contact@whatsgoodgames.com. You guys know you can always email us whenever you want to, from a gentleman named Johnny. And he writes, "What's good, ladies? Hope you are doing well. I'd like to propose a Tim Geddes-esque hype bet for Pokemon Switch. I am so confident that Pokemon Switch will be announced by the end of this month that I'm willing to put money on the line. If Pokemon Switch is not announced by the end of the month, I will support the WGG Patreon at the $20 level for the month of June. If it is announced, you don't actually have to send me money. Just thought this could be something fun to do. Best regards." So I did him one better and said, "Johnny, if you're willing to put money down, we'll put money down, and we will donate $20 to the charity of your choice if you lose." Or if we lose, I mean.
Yeah.
And so he wrote back, of course, and said, holy moly, we got a Pokemon Switch announcement just days before the end of the month. Literally like one day before. My charity of choice is Cure SMA. So that's curesma.org. A bit of background on why I chose this charity, if you are interested. A close family friend of ours had a child born with type 1 SMA, spinal muscular atrophy, a disease that severely atrophies his muscles, including his heart and lungs. The doctor said he wasn't supposed to live until his first birthday. He is now 18 and about to graduate high school and will be attending college in the fall. Oh, and he is also an Eagle Scout. Danny loves video games, though.
Yes.
Yeah, were you an Eagle Scout, Brandon?
Yeah, I still am an Eagle Scout. I didn't have it revoked.
My husband is also an Eagle Scout, and I know that's a sense of pride for all of the Eagle Scouts out there. That's very cool.
So he also loves video games, though due to his condition, he cannot actually play them himself, though he still engages by telling his friends and brother all the tips and tricks to the games and what they keep doing wrong.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Backseat gaming is the best.
Yeah, right? Hopefully through the advancements of medicine funded by great organizations like Cure SMA and accessible controllers like the new one from Microsoft, he will be able to play video games himself one day soon. Thank you for playing along with this fun little wager. Best of luck to all of you at E3. So, Johnny, thank you so much for writing in. We will be sure to send that donation over to Cure SMA. If you guys want to learn more, you can check them out at Cure SMA. So that's curesma.org. And also, Johnny, if you're listening, and hopefully you are, if you haven't connected him with Able Gamers, I highly recommend you do so and talk to Steven over there. He is one of the best and maybe can show him ways to game that he didn't know about or hasn't considered. Just some food for thought. All right. So that aside.
Can I just say that the only part that confused me about this is they're like, and I'm confident that Pokemon Switch will be announced. And you're like, but they already said last year that they were doing a Pokemon Switch. So like what? By your definition, is an announcement.
I think what he meant was like the actual game was announced, which it was, right? So let's go, Pokemon, let's go.
Oh, I was thinking more the core RPG that they didn't really announce a title for. They were just like, this is coming.
Steimer, I'm not gonna nitpick his bet when we're donating to a very worthy charity.
I love
we
it.
should totally donate to charity. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying next time be more specific, people, if you want to do this.
No, and we'll get into this. This comes down to my reproductive system, Brandon. So on our E3 prediction show, I told Brandon, I didn't tell you this, Brandon, but I told our audience that if the Pokemon Switch title was coming out in 2018, I would lose my reproductive system. It would just fall out of my body because there's no way in hell it was going to happen. Well, the core title that was teased last year's E3 is not coming until the end of the second half of 2019. So technically, and we'll talk about this more in depth, because it's a charity thing, 100%. Like you would take Pokemon Quest and you get your money. That counts. But for me and my reproductive system, it doesn't count. But we can get into that later. Continue.
All right. So the first announcement: Nintendo, the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, and Niantic announced several fun new Pokemon experiences coming to the Nintendo Switch in 2018, including one that's available right now. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Taking place in the diverse and vibrant Kanto region, this new pair of games is packed with adventure for Pokemon trainers of all ages. This is from the Nintendo press release. In the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee games, you will partner up with either Pikachu or Eevee, shock, and embark on an exciting adventure where you'll catch and battle Pokemon and meet other trainers and discover the region of Kanto. Pokemon and the two Let's Go games will launch exclusively on Nintendo Switch on November 16th, 2018. Brittany, to you for
Eevee.
Brittany's face is so good right now. If you guys haven't watched us at youtube.com/what'sgoodgames, now is maybe a good one to go to. Thoughts?
There's a lot here. This is like the biggest, fattest onion you've ever seen in your life, and it has all of those layers. How about, do you want me to how do you want me to proceed with this? Because we haven't even talked about the other stuff.
Speak your heart.
She wants,
you just do what you got to do.
Okay, how about you continue reading down this list of news?
Okay.
Because I'm going to touch on all of this.
Sure. So, Pokeball Plus. The controller
drooled a little
was
bit.
specifically designed by Nintendo to enhance the gameplay experience for aspiring Pokemon trainers by replicating the look and the feel of an actual Pokeball. Pokeball Plus allows players to control their journey by combining motion controls, a pressable control stick, and a top button to create a truly immersive adventure. In addition to motion controls, Pokeball Plus also lights up with a variety of colors, vibrates, and plays sounds. It can even send one Pokemon at a time from Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee to the other ones.
Wait,
It's
no, like so
confusing.
it will go in the ball from that game. So like
Right.
you have a Pokemon in the ball and you can carry it around with you.
Precisely what she said. It's also compatible with the Pokemon Go app, providing the same functionality. It will also launch alongside the games on November 16th. You can connect to Pokemon Go by wirelessly connecting to your Nintendo Switch. How that whole process works isn't quite clear. The way
Wireless Bluetooth.
the way
Bluetooth,
that they
yeah.
showed it on your Switch was that there's like going to be some kind of a prompt where you can connect them, but trying to go the other way from your phone, from the Switch to your phone, I'm not sure quite how that's gonna work. But also continuing on, there's of course Pokemon Quest, as Brittany mentioned. Set off on an adventure, the Pokemon Quest game. Venture out with your Pokemon buddies and expeditions across Tumblecube Island in search of loot in this free to start, which is a weird term,
I love that.
action adventure game for the Nintendo Switch system. Modify your Pokemon buddies with discovered Power Stones to make your expedition team, and like a bunch of other marketing mumbo jumbo. You can even decorate your base camp with fine items that provide helpful bonuses that make your expedition more beneficial. In addition to all of this exciting content, as Brittany mentioned, the core RPG entry into the Pokemon series, which is hypothetically Generation 8, is slated to be released Nintendo Switch late 2019. All right.
Pokemon Core.
How did I miss the Pokemon Quest thing? They made Pokemon Minecraft?
Yeah.
No.
Well,
It's like Pokemon Diablo that plays itself. It's strange.
That looks like Minecraft?
okay.
Yeah,
but-
it's very blocky. It should be called like Pokemon Blocks or something.
They
right?
call it like, what's the term, voxel? Is that what people call it? But it's like they called it Pokevex. I don't know what the fuck they called it.
Pokevex would be a sweet title.
Pokevexel.
Pokemon Quest is a strange title to me because you quest in every Pokemon game, so it's not like a twist, you know.
Right.
The
But they're
twist
like,
is
but this is something you've never seen before. Which
Yeah,
I
just-
wouldn't get just from the title. I'd be like, oh, this is just another Pokemon game. So, Brittany, break all this down for us. Tell
Okay.
us the good word about the Pokemons.
Okay. So I thought it was surprising to me that this whole thing wasn't live streamed. Now, we all had an idea that this information, if you were privy and paying attention, that info was going to drop before the end of the month. And then as you paid attention to some of the leaks and some of the things people were saying, within like an hour, you knew this was going to happen, and then it was announced, and the conference went down. I was surprised it wasn't live streamed, but that's okay. My plan was to sit down with a big glass of whiskey and watch it, and then I realized that I would have to go to Twitter for my updates, so I got very anxious, and I walked like 3 miles while listening to this thing and around my neighborhood frantically, and it was really weird. So as I was walking around, I was trying to like see what was happening, and then when Pokemon Quest was announced, which is that blocky game, which I can talk a little bit about now because I played it, or I can talk about in the hands-on section, whatever. I was like, okay, this clearly is not the core Pokemon title that was teased at last year's E3. They even, I think, prefaced this, and this was the tricky part because everything was coming through Twitter. It was tricky to figure out what was being announced and in what fashion and in what order. So some people were saying that they prefaced it with, hey, we're announcing 3 things. Some people just started throwing out announcements. So I'm like, okay, they're obviously announcing more than just Pokemon Quest. Thank God they did. Because I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I don't know what the hell this is. Okay, temper my expectations. And Pokemon Quest, I'll talk about in hands-on. So then I continued my walk, and I was sweating heavily because I was very anxious and very hot outside, and I was walking. And then Pokemon Let's Go was announced via Twitter, and people were posting screenshots of it. And my first reaction was, this just looks like a much prettier 3DS version, which isn't technically a bad thing. But if you've been listening to me on the show, I've wanted something more realistic, something more Breath of the Wild-esque when it comes to graphics and look of the game. And I saw this and I'm like, okay, this is just, kind of what we're used to, but that's okay. So I was a little clenchy. And then the tweets started coming in, and then the trailer came out. And I was with my husband, and we stopped and we're like watching this on our walk. And when they started showing gameplay, I was like, okay, this is interesting. Let's see what they do with this. And then as soon as they dropped the whole co-op aspect, that's when I was like, fuck yes. Co-op is something that I've wanted from a Pokemon game for a very, very long time, and I didn't think they would actually do it. And the fact that they did, I think, is just freaking incredible. I can break that down a little bit later. And then what else did they show that I was really excited about? I thought and then they were showing the battle mechanics, which was kind of strange. And in the trailer, they also showed Nugget Bridge, Cerulean City. You saw some Poke Centers in there. You saw Mount Moon. You saw the Clefairies in Mount Moon. And I was like, okay, this is... And then, the rumor was that this was going to be not necessarily a remake, but a spiritual reimagining of Pokemon Yellow. And so all of that made sense. And then it all started kind of coming together. The rumor had been for a very long time that they were going to make a next Pokemon game with Pokemon Go. And this next core title, they're going to be integrated in some fashion. And then everything kind of clicked. Now, this was before I saw the tweet about the next core title coming in the later half of next year. But even then at that point, while it wasn't anything like I had hoped and speculated about on this show, I was very excited about just the fact that it looked like they were taking some steps forward with the co-op specifically. And if you think about it realistically, I know I talk about Breath of the Wild all the time. The first major Pokemon title, I think, from 3DS to Switch, you can't imagine a full-on reinvention of the franchise. I know I talked about it a lot, but realistically, that's just hopes and dreams.
But why not, though? Why is it hopes and dreams? Breath of the Wild was the first Zelda on the new platform.
Sure, but if you look at the transition of how Zelda has evolved, I'm talking about from handheld to console. I feel like they're going to play a little safe in that transition. Do I think it needs to be that way? No, but that's just, I feel like the trend when you see games go from handheld to maybe console, they're going to play a little safe. That's just
I think they're going to play it very safe. This is Pokemon.
Right.
People
and so
know and expect a certain thing.
Right. I mean, if you look at the Zeldas throughout console history, Breath of the Wild, it was a big step forward. It wasn't a huge oh my god, this is Link to the Past of Breath of the Wild in terms of gameplay and whatever. Anyway, so I was excited about the fact that they were taking some steps forward with the co-op. I'm like, okay, you know what? It's on console now. I think this will do really well. And, fingers crossed for the next game. And then they announced the next game. And then at that point, it became clear that this wasn't that core RPG that we had been promised at E3 last year. This was just something a little extra, kind of an introductory Pokemon title for those who maybe have never played Pokemon before. If you have Pokemon Go or whatever. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, so is Pokemon Let's Go the game I've been hoping and dreaming for? Absolutely not. That said, I know that there is the core title coming next year, and that's the one that I'm saving my critical eye for. That's the one where I feel like they need to make the steps forward, or take this big steps forward for the franchise.
So as somebody who has spent a lot of time and dollars in Pokemon Go, are you super excited about the crossover between Niantic and the Pokemon Company with the Switch?
Am I super excited about it? No.
Really?
Is it fun? Sure. I mean, I think it's so I know
I wasn't
the
expecting
attraction.
that.
I mean, the attraction for a lot of people, I think, with this whole collaboration is, hey, you can take the Pokemon you've caught on Pokemon Go and bring it over to Pokemon Let's Go. But for me, the majority of the fun of playing these Pokemon games is capturing the Pokemon, for the first time and grinding a little bit and waiting for those rare spawns. So I don't plan on taking any of my Pokemon from Pokemon Go into Pokemon Let's Go. Maybe I'll try a couple just to see how it works. But, I mean, otherwise I have my full roster already. So it's, minus a few that weren't here in the U.S. But I think it's cool.
Would they obey? They wouldn't obey you in the new game because your character, or is it the same character?
I don't know. They haven't. You mean like your same Pokemon Go character in?
Yeah. Is it the same Pokemon Go character, like your avatar? Like, are you the same level then?
I wouldn't imagine so. I don't think so.
You couldn't technically like transport you could transport a higher level Pokemon over, but they wouldn't necessarily obey your commands.
Right, and so that's part of it with Pokemon Let's Go's we don't know about. We don't know about the gym battles. We know a lot of things are going to be a little different. This isn't a complete remake of Pokemon Yellow, right? Obviously, they have the Pokemon Go battle mechanics in this one, which means that you are no longer fighting Pokemon with your traditional 4-move commands. You are throwing your Joy-Con at the screen. Well, not throwing your Joy-Con at the screen.
Throwing it at the screen.
I mean,
like
the
we're going
Pokeball
to.
is going to get thrown at the screen. Somebody's going to throw that thing.
Of course.
That's
yeah.
why you get the wristlet.
Oh, 100%.
Like from the Wii days. Remember that?
Yeah. So I've talked a lot, and I have a really big list of things that I can briefly like go through. These are my thoughts. I have them organized because I'm a jumbled mess right now. But if anyone else wants to pitch in right now, please speak.
Before you go through those thoughts, Brandon, what are your thoughts on Let's Go and its integration with the mobile version? Do you think that's smart, or do you think that's gimmicky?
Both.
Yeah.
Well, like gimmicky is not bad because Pokemon Go, they've definitely put a ton of effort into that, and I had a lot of fun with Pokemon Go and kind of sunsetted my time with Pokemon Go in a very it was a good breakup. It was something where it's like I put that on the shelf knowing that like I could invest more time with this. I'm not putting it down because I'm frustrated with it. I kind of knew when I first became obsessed with it. I'm like, this will last 2 months and then that's it. Like I love going to places around like shopping malls and stuff like that out here. I go to Disneyland a lot, and so it's like I found myself at different spots being like, oh, I got that Pokemon Go game. This is perfect. I'm in a spot where there's just a ton of these towers that I can go by, and I love people. I imagine if you were super obsessed with Pokemon Go, this is like such a gift that you now get another opportunity to either not only transfer stuff as Britt was saying, but like just be familiar with that format. And yeah, it makes sense. I just wonder if this was maybe like another game, because I know Pokemon Stars was rumored for a while, and it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting that, like a Switch version of Sun and Moon. And so I wonder if Stars was kind of in this like amorphous phase for a while, and then when it was clear that they were like, no, let's do Ultra for 3DS, and then this thing will become the Go Switch, and then the teams kind of focused more on that. But I think the main thing that bums me out about this new one is I don't want to throw every time. I hope there's like a button we can pick. I get the novelty of it, but if like I'm on a plane, can you imagine like that person sitting next to you, like looking like, what are you doing? You're like,
are you having a spasm?
I'm sorry.
I'm
I just
catching
have to
up,
every
Pidgey.
time
Yeah, that's
holding, but the
damn
Joy-Cons
Pidgey.
attached to the Switch, just shaking the entire device. Like,
It's interesting that you bring that up, because that's something that Tim Geddes was talking about when we were talking about it on Games Daily. He was like, where's the turn-based battles? Like, I don't want to be using the Pokemon Go battle mechanics throughout all of Let's Go. Is that going to be it? Because it looks like from the trailer that that's the only way that you battle Pokemon is by throwing the Pokeball at them.
Which doesn't make any sense, because if you're trying to battle someone, anything other than just capturing a Pokemon, like that has to be something different. Because you wouldn't throw a Pokeball at, like, I'm not going to throw a Pokeball at Britt's Pikachu and be like, ha ha, like, got him, sucker.
Why not?
Like,
try.
bounce, yeah. So maybe it'll be a nice mix of both, where like catching Pokemon is that throw mechanic, but bring back like a turn-based thing for anything else.
Yeah, as far as we know right now, the Pokemon capturing battling system is the basic replica from Pokemon Go, right?
Yeah.
You throw it.
This whole game then just walking around catching things and that's it.
Well, the gym,
might be.
not
I don't
the,
know.
the trainer battles, you have the 4 movesets. So the trainer battles are going to be what you'd expect from like a regular Pokemon
Okay,
game.
good. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
No word on gym battles yet. But, okay, I'll just run through this real quick. So, first topic, battle mechanics, just what we were talking about. So something I'm actually really happy with is that the Pokemon are finally on the screen at a la Pokemon Go. So this is cool because I would like to see this in future Pokemon titles. Hopefully in the next one, you will see the Pokemon actually like doing something in their natural habitat, acting the certain way, kind of like the monsters in Monster Hunter, kind of just existing and doing their own thing. So I'm happy that they're getting rid of the tall grass aspect. And some points people have made about that actually is, they like the grind for rare Pokemon because some Pokemon have really low spawn rates. Like Clefairies and Mount Moon, I think the max spawn rate is like 10%. And so part of the addictiveness was running around the cave, and then, you know, the battle music starts, and then boom, it's a Clefairy. Oh my god! And it gets your adrenaline running. Whereas if you're just walking around and a Clefairy pops up, it's like, okay, is that very exciting? So some people are mixed on that, but I'm happy to see the Pokemon on the screen. I'm actually very excited about the Pokeball Plus. I'm excited to carry that bitch around with me and rock that.
I'm not surprised by this whatsoever.
You just want to have Pikachu noises on command.
Oh, no. Okay, so that was in that trailer. The girl, she's like, by the way, the girl who meets her friend who has the amazing looking salad, I want that salad so bad. If you look at the trailer. I was
You want a salad?
I like salad now.
What a great detail.
No, I know, but it's still like not a thing.
Because I was going through the trailer and pausing every minute and every second, actually. And I looked at that salad for a long hot, and I was like, damn, that's a good looking salad.
Now I have to look up this salad.
Now I have to look at the salad.
It was a real good salad. But yeah, so with the Pokeball Plus, you know, I don't understand what benefits you get from carrying your Pokemon around. Maybe you level them up quicker. I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe they just become your best friend.
They just become your best friend, yeah. And she's like rolling it around on the table and like doing some weird. It's making
making him sick.
No, I think it's supposed to be like a happy thing that you're actually interacting with her, but it makes some really scary, lewd sounding noises, and I'm like, damn, that's fucking terrifying. If there was like an earthquake or something and I'm sleeping and that Pokeball rolls around a little bit and it starts making those noises, that's not good. Like, I'm not a fan of that. So some of the big questions are, how do you level up your Pokemon if you're not battling? Because that's part of the grind, right? Is you want to fight other Pokemon, and there's other things you can do by fighting specific Pokemon, raising specific stats of theirs that you want to level them in. And they have said that they're not commenting on that at this point. So anyway, I could get real deep with this. Brandon.
Yeah.
What are some of your hopes and dreams for this? Because I know we were talking about this, and you said that you had recently gotten to Pokemon. I know you said you're not a fan of the battle mechanics, but is there anything else that you're kind of like,
I'm just not very good at it. Like I can play it to the single player against the AI and enjoy it, but then, you know, Kyle Bossman was kind of my Sherpa, like taking me through the world. And then whenever we would duel, he would just annihilate me every single time. And so like I've never really been good competitively at Pokemon, but I'm trying to keep my expectations low, not in a bad way, but just that it's not going to exceed them beyond what Pokemon Go has already delivered. And I wonder if the reason that, because I always try to speculate this stuff, that like the reason why they're not really getting into the details is because they're kind of waiting to see how their community reacts to this. Like it's an experiment. Like there's this huge community that liked Pokemon Go. We have this huge community that's waiting for the next RPG. We're not exactly sure where that crossover is and what those people are going to expect and what they want. And so based on what we're showing them, let's see what they freak out about. And then we'll know, okay, let's not do that. Or if we were developing that system, let's sunset that until later and really focus on the things that they want. Specifically with leveling, it's so funny because Kyle is so obsessed with Pokemon, and yet he doesn't play Go at all. Like, I think he got it, tried it for 5 seconds, was like, no. And so he can be really like have real hard lines.
Do you think though that has to do with the fact that Pokemon Go required exercise?
Yes, he specifically says, it's like, I have to go outside. Like, no, I'm not into this whole outside thing. He's a drama queen. And so it's so funny for him to like, he's like freaking out before the podcast. Like, what's CP? We're like, it's combat power. It's complicated. Like, he's like, what's candy? How does candy work? We're like, I don't know if they're going to use candy, man. Who knows?
Yeah.
There was candy in the regular games. It just did a different thing. Oh, it was rare candy.
Rare candy.
Rare candy levels him up.
Yeah.
When I was playing Red, I just put every rare candy on my Charizard because I got him up to 99. I love over leveling stuff in RPGs. It's like,
it's fantastic. And then you just beat the entire game.
Sneeze on the other person and they die.
So I don't need Let's Go to be anything. I can't really say if I'll probably spend that much time with it, just because I want to be able to really. I don't want to be sick of Pokemon or tired of it at all by the time that 2019. Or possibly 2020 game comes out, because I want that to really be something crazy new. Breath of the Wild level innovation within Pokemon, like that would. Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna play Let's Go either of them. Obviously,
I'll go play it. I don't know how much I'll play, but
I won't. I'm not. I'm already tapping out of that. Just because, like you said, I want.
I was like, nope.
I'm gonna wait. I want this core RPG. I will play that. But Pokemon Quest actually seems like, tell me more about this, because now it has my attention because it's different.
Wait, you're not going to play Pokemon Let's Go, but you're going to play Pokemon Quest, Christine Steimer.
Yeah. It's a different thing.
Yeah, it is very different. And maybe
I don't always want to eat soup. Sometimes I want a salad.
Oh, okay. Well, before we hop into Pokemon Quest, I just want to talk a little bit more.
Okay. Go ahead.
She's like,
This is your moment, Britt.
To say.
I still have a list of things. I've been waiting for this game since I was 8. Well, not this game, but
waiting
something
for
like this
monsters
since I
for
was
so
8
long.
years old. Okay. So, okay, actually, I think we've kind of talked on everything that I wanted to talk about. Walking Pokemon's coming back. I think that's really cool. Maybe not, that some people think it's cool, some people don't. It was a cool mechanic that was introduced in some of the earlier games, and I think it was Heart Gold and Soul Silver where it was last fully implemented, where you have like little Pokemon that get to like walk behind you, and you get to interact with them. They can pick up candy, and they can flip you attitude if you piss them off. Like if you take like your fire Pokemon through water, they'll get real mad. Actually, I think all Pokemon get mad at you if you take them through water.
What if they were a water type? Why would they be mad?
Whiny bitches.
They're just bitches.
Squirtle's like, I don't like the water. Meh.
Just bitches.
What are you talking about? You blow bubbles.
I got nothing. That's a very good point, Steimer.
Shrug. Lol shrug.
But the main thing I'm really super duper excited about is the co-op. This has not been in a Pokemon RPG ever, and like I was saying earlier, this is something that I wanted, didn't think it was going to happen, and it actually happened. I think it's going to be, the second player is going to be more of a support character than anything, so don't expect, you get to bring your Pokemon posse with you in another person's game. Sounds like, I hope they have pro controller support. That was really fucking difficult.
Forest floor flavors.
Forest floor flavors. I know, I can say that, but not pro controller support. That doesn't make any sense. Because it sounds like you can play this game with just a Joy-Con, which is why you can play it with the Pokeball Plus peripheral in your hand. So it's not going to be super like button intensive or anything like that. Real simple to play, and you just shake a Joy-Con and you hop in your friend's game, and it's all local. I think there's been confirmation of no online. I don't know if it's a confirmation, but there hasn't been any talk about online, like an online hub for battling, which I think is fine. I don't think this game needs that. This isn't trying to be like the next core Pokemon title that's coming next year, so I think it's fine, so people can just calm down a little bit. And this player can actually, your partner can fight with you against trainers. You can catch Pokemon together. You can run through things together. And maybe, I'm just really excited about this because my husband and I played Pokemon Blue together like several years ago when we first started dating. We fired up the Game Boy Advance, and we both played it as children. So I think the fact that he and I can actually run through some of these staples, cities and towns from the Kanto region is just really freaking cool. And I hope this gets a lot of people to play Pokemon on the Switch, and I think this will do really, really well. Because I want to see this do well, and I want to see, Nintendo make more games like this, more Pokemon titles on the Switch. And I have a feeling that's where it's going anyway, but if it gets a lot of numbers and support, I think that would be just freaking wonderful. I mean, there's 800 million people that downloaded Pokemon Go. Like, that's ridiculous. I think I did calculations. Like, 0.5% converts. That's like 4 million people, I think. So if those people, 4 million more Switches, there's your 20 million, Nintendo. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you bring that up. So we've looked at the numbers on Games Daily several times about, like, which of the Nintendo franchises sell the most. And even though Mario is obviously the number one franchise for Nintendo, Pokemon is number 2. And it's crazy to me just how many units of Pokemon have been sold worldwide across the lifetime of that franchise. It's I've always known that Pokemon was huge. I didn't grow up with Pokemon, though. I didn't really learn about Pokemon until I was like in my 20s, because I just didn't have any friends that played. I never played. It just wasn't part of my life. Like, the only Pokemon I ever saw was Pikachu, right? Like the face of the brand. And so it's interesting that now they're bringing Eevee up to really kind of give Eevee some spotlight and to really kind of showcase another Pokemon to have another mascot. Do you think that Pokemon Let's Go could potentially convert people like me who've never played a mainline Pokemon RPG into getting into it? Anybody? No?
Really? Well, I say that because you're not into the Pokemon formula as it stands right now anyway.
Right, but Let's Go. But Let's Go is so far from what we've seen, not traditional Pokemon RPG turn-based battle mechanics, right?
Sure. So I guess it depends on how you're looking at this. So this game is being created. Here's a quote from the marketing manager. It says, everything about Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, from the controls to the design to the art, is made so that it's ideal to be your first step into the Pokemon franchise. And I think you can look at that a couple ways. Like you, Andrea, sure, but I feel like you are looking for something different from Pokemon than what Pokemon already is. And if the Pokemon you see on 3DS isn't making your panties all tight and twisted and glorious, then I can't see how Pokemon Let's Go would do that. Because I feel like the appeal of Pokemon from an RPG perspective is the strategy and the moves and the leveling and, what moves are you going to learn? What moves are you going to drop? The evolutions. This game, I don't think is going to have that. I think this will appeal to those people who love Pokemon Go and they like the simplicity of it, but they're willing to take that next step into like baby's first RPG, right? Pokemon. And
this baby ass baby mode of Pokemon.
Yeah. So I think it's going to appeal to a lot of people from that side, but from like where you're coming from, I mean, I think you'll at least give it a shot and you'll at least try it.
Yeah,
but will you fall
yeah.
in love with it? I don't think so.
I doubt it.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think what it comes back to is that I just don't like turn-based combat is just not my cup of tea. I will play it in certain games and I enjoy it in certain games, but for the most part, like, I don't get like super excited. Like, as Brittany says, my panties don't get twisted about turn-based combat. It's just I like real time. I like the action to happen instantly. Mm-hmm. And
aren't you a big Mass Effect fan?
Yeah, but Mass Effect isn't turn-based.
No, it's not. But it is kind of like an interesting evolution of that. Like there is definitely a fine line there that you definitely sit on one side of.
Okay,
so
I see what you're saying.
No, I'm not like calling
yeah.
you out or anything. I just think it's fascinating. Like that
you hypocrite.
No, honestly, Brandon, that's a very good point. It's something that I don't really think about because I think the turn-based elements of Mass Effect's combat are so quick. They're slow in the beginning, and you have to be a little bit more methodical as you're getting to know all of the different abilities and getting to know what your squad mates can and can't do. But once you learn it, you can instantly fire off those abilities from a simple button press while the combat is happening. Whereas in Pokemon, the combat's always turn-based. This is why I've been struggling to go back and play Final Fantasy IX, is that like the combat sequences just take so damn long that I lose my patience with it.
Well, maybe we didn't think you'd love Monster Hunter as much as you did, so maybe you'll hop into this and you'll be like, holy shit, this is my favorite kind of Pokemans ever.
Pokemans for everybody.
Makes you a little Eevee.
I think it's for Pokemon Go fans. I think it's as simple as that. I
and those with tons of nostalgia.
They're leaving the breadcrumbs out for people to, I played Go, maybe I'll like this, and then they play this, and maybe I'll like this new,
maybe
big
this
scale
is for
RPG.
Those poor people who live in rural America and cannot catch all the Pokemon because they just don't have access to most of the Pokemon in Pokemon Go. So they're like, just buy this for your Switch, and then you can get them.
I'm really excited to see how this is marketed. If they're really trying to capture the Pokemon Go audience, they have to do some cool commercials and everything because it's it's going to be a hard sell. You have to buy the Switch, $299. You have to buy the game, $60. If you want to get the Pokeball, it's another $60. So you have to wonder, are people willing, or are they going to be willing, casual Pokemon Go players, to plunk down that kind of money for an experience that they've never had before with Pokemon? I'm just excited to see what Nintendo does.
Yeah, I think they will because Nintendo's giving people a reason to buy the system more than just Pokemon. And maybe if we cross our fingers and pray to the Nintendo gods, they will do what they're doing in Japan, which is offering a standalone Switch without the dock, without the HDMI cable, and all the other rigmarole that comes with connecting it to your TV, where you just get the base unit with the Joy-Cons, and for I think it's $50 cheaper by conversion in Japan. But right now Nintendo has said that it's only being offered there. But why wouldn't they offer that SKU other places?
I would have preferred
Right?
that SKU.
A lot of people
I'm
would,
not
right?
hooking that thing up to my TV. That's just coming with me where I go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's smart. I can't imagine they won't do that as the 3DS eventually fades into oblivion. You know, people are gonna be like, "Oh, what I do? Handheld."
Wah, wah.
Yeah.
Well,
Cool.
now that we've been talking
Not
about
really. I actually want
Pokemon
that to die
for
so that everything will go to the Switch.
quite a while, let's shift gears and talk about the apocalypse. That's right,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen. Bethesda has officially announced Fallout 76. So we saw some teases from the Bethesda Twitter account, and they came forward today with an announcement trailer of the Tricentennial Vault. Official Vault of the Tricentennial is what I meant to say. Fighting has stopped and the fallout has settled. You must be rebuild, which is a quote from the trailer. Reclamation Day in Vault 76, our future begins. So Jason Schreier over at Kotaku wrote that although the studio hasn't yet said what it is we hear, it's an online game of sorts. From what we've heard, this game is under development at both Bethesda Game Studios' main office in Maryland and the Austin office, formerly known as Battlecry Studios. That Austin office, which started in 2012, was making a hero shooter called Battlecry before Bethesda canceled it. And we'll see more of the game, of course, at Bethesda's E3 press conference on Sunday, June 10th. Jason followed up to this story with more news saying Fallout 76 is, in fact, an online survival RPG that's heavily inspired by games like DayZ and Rust, according to 3 people familiar with the project. Originally prototyped as a multiplayer version of Fallout 4 with the goal of envisioning what an online Fallout game might look like, Fallout 76 has evolved quite a bit over the past few years, those sources said. It will have quests and a story like any other game from Bethesda Game Studios, a developer known for meaty RPGs like Skyrim. It will also feature base building, just like 2015's Fallout 4, and other survival-based and multiplayer mechanics, according to his sources. One cautioned that the gameplay is rapidly changing like it does in many online service games, but that's the core outline. The game is named after the series Vault 76, which has been mentioned in both Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. And according to Fallout lore, the Vault 76 was meant to open just 20 years after the nuclear war, allowing for a far less civilized setting than previous games. Fallouts 3 and 4, which are full of cities and settlements, both take place over 200 years after the war. Much of the population has had time to reconstruct human civilization. Fallout 76 will feel very different, as the narrator of the trailer says, when the fighting is stopped and the fallout has settled, you must rebuild, as I said at the top of this chunk of text. So, other people have noticed that the Pip-Boy that is shown inside the trailer shows a date that is set before any of the Fallout games. So, word on the street is this is a prequel? Question mark?
I mean, is it really a question when it says right there that it was supposed to open 20 years after the nuclear war, which is far sooner than any of the other games?
It was
No.
supposed to, but then it did 200 years later, I think, or yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I think the assumption...
No, Fallout 3 and 4 are 200 years.
Yeah, I think this 76 was supposed to open 20 years, but then the game actually takes place. So if it takes place, if it's a prequel, it might just be like a little bit before. I don't know. It depends.
Yeah, it's hard to tell by the verbiage being used here if it's like if it actually opened or if it was meant to open just 20 years. And so it's hard to tell from this announcement trailer if some of these images we're seeing are stuff that has been taken out of the vault or stuff that is shown before the vault is sealed. It's kind of hard to know what's happening. So I think this is interesting because clearly, you know, Jason Schreier is known for having good sources. I want to believe that his sources are telling him the truth. People have been pulling bits and tidbits out of every frame-by-frame slice of this trailer, much as Brittany did with the Pokemon Go Salad. And so I think we're going to see more fan theories come to light, but clearly, you know, their press conference is now just a week away by the time the podcast airs, a week and a day. But I think it's an interesting conversation to have about what this Fallout is going to be, knowing that Fallout 4, a full mainline game in the franchise, came out just 3 years ago. This doesn't seem to me like it's going to be another iteration. I don't even know if this is going to be a Fallout New Vegas. This to me feels like an Elder Scrolls Online version of Fallout.
Well, we
Yeah.
don't know yet, but
No, we don't.
We don't.
Don't know jack shit.
like the trailer they showed is just like an empty vault, which tells you nothing. Although it looks like fairly well intact, but there's also no one there. So I'm curious to see like what the story is of this, because like we said, theoretically, Vault 76 was a control vault. So there was no weird shit going down in it. Like it should have been a regular, normal ass vault. It was supposed to open 20 years. Did it? Who knows? We'll figure that out. Hopefully at E3 or beyond. So I'm just curious to see like how an online element comes into this. Like, or are there other people in this vault? Like, are you hanging out with them? Is that gonna be you guys? Like, are we chilling in this stupid vault in the middle of nowhere? Also, I want to say, Fallout 4's building mechanics were terrible. They were not good. They were not a thing that I want more of. So I hope it's better. Please make it better, dear God.
I didn't play enough of Fallout 4 and the building mechanics to form a concrete opinion. I remember not minding the building mechanics, but it wasn't something I went back to and was like really excited to do over and over again. I definitely was not expecting a core Fallout announcement. Like you said, Andrea, it's been only 3 years, and I will raise hell if we get a new Fallout before we get a new Elder Scrolls, because hot diggity damn.
They've already said, go play the MMO. That's their Elder Scrolls, and I think they're sticking to it because we got this.
Well, no, I got to get my Elder Scrolls 6 in. You see, I don't care what the developers say.
Yeah,
They don't know.
Britt.
They don't know what they're talking
Preach.
about. Yeah, I got
Britt.
you. I got you. Anyway, that's my hopes and dreams. But I think a lot of people are in denial. They're like, this is totally a core game. And it's like, well, if you've paid attention to Jason Schreier in his history, he knows what he's talking about. Not to mention on Reddit, there was someone, I mean, granted, take this with a grain of Steimer if you want, but there was someone who at 4:30 this morning, a couple hours before this announcement was official, someone by the name of Someh, SOMEH, posted that Bethesda is announcing a Fallout Vault 76, and it came true, obviously. And then this person said it's going to be a game surrounding the base building element, and then he said, I'm just a guy with his ear to the ground. This is what I know. It's a full game. It's centered around base building camps, etc., and it's online. It will be fully released this year. So
That's when I heard the name Fallout 76, my initial thoughts are not a core title because of the naming alone.
Sure.
And then when they were talking about a lot of it, like they mentioned rebuilding a lot, obviously, which makes sense if you're one of the first vaults to open.
you got to
Kind
rebuild.
of your job. You got to rebuild. And so that's my thought was exactly like, okay, we're going to have to build more. Oh no. Because
No, see,
at least with consoles, it was just really frustrating to build. It might have been different on PC. It probably was much better. But like you would try and build something, and I just remember like trying to place anything, you had to like leave the house and then switch a thing and then go back up into it, and I was just like, I'm just not even doing this anymore.
You're done, done. So for me, like I've never been able to get into a Fallout game. The post-apocalyptic setting, unless it's zombie related, it just turns me off. It's like trees in video games. It's
You
just
don't like
not good.
brown?
I don't like the brown atmosphere.
There are no
settings.
trees.
I know,
There'll
but
be no trees.
But post-apocalyptic, like I said, with machines and shit, there is fantasy escapism. That's not the world we currently live in, and I understand it very well could be. But I'm more of like a fantasy kind of girl. So I am looking forward to this because I feel like if there's an online component, I can play almost anything because that gives it so much more entertainment for me. And is it weird that my first thought was, could this be the State of Decay 2 I wanted but didn't get? You know, I haven't talked about State of Decay 2 really on this, but that's kind of what I wanted. And that's what I'm hoping for, something along those lines, if it is base building. But anyway, Brandon, what do you think? Am I off my rocker?
It's going to be Fortnite.
What?
It's going to be Save the World from Fortnite. You're going to have a
Save
base.
the world from Fortnite.
You're gonna
I was like, Battle Royale, what?
Like, we already
Well,
killed
maybe.
each other.
Probably.
That's kind of
It
why
might not
we're
have
here.
Battle Royale at launch, but I'm sure they're going to keep themselves open up to that. You're going to have your own base that's going to be right outside the vault that you're going to defend just by yourself. You're going to be able to upgrade over weeks and months and slowly adding to this one central base. So that base gets more elaborate and you get more abilities and stuff like that. Much more streamlined than Fallout 4. So like, I think that's the point, is they heard loud and clear the criticism Steimer for it. Like, I was kind of interested in 4, and I was like, oh, that base building looks neat. And everyone I talked to was like, no. Like, if that's the thing you're excited about in 4, you're gonna have a bad time. So I think just like in Fortnite, you're gonna have maybe 1 or 2 bases depending on where you're at, and the further you get out into the world to constantly be improving, and then that experience is gonna be offset by a quick run and gun build like they also do in Save the World, where you're going to like run into a spot, build a thing to protect something or protect some people, defend it from monsters coming in, and then get your loot at the end of that mission, and then rinse repeat.
Interesting.
I think it just meant, like, the second I saw rebuild, I was like, oh, Fortnite. They saw basically this. They're like, oh, we can adapt what we were already doing of this formula to something. I think be prepared that it might not look as good as you would expect a Fallout 4 follow-up, to look.
Oh, I think it's going to look the same.
But I think what's gonna benefit that is they're gonna put more time into making the building stuff accessible and quick, and just wooden wall, just latch it on there, and then when I'm out in the world, I can just tower, boom, build that really quickly. But when I'm back in my private base, maybe that's a little more intensive. No, I actually want this workbench to be here, and I'll put my dog house over here. And
sounds fun.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, it's interesting to compare this to the Pokemon announcement that we got, where these like, oh, that franchise I love is releasing a game that, oh, okay, kind of looks like a middle of the road experience, where it's not necessarily that big title that I wanted, but like maybe this could be, because I have zero history with Fallout. I've like worked on Fallout features over the years as a journalist, but like never actually got obsessed with any game in that series. I think like the mobile game was Shelter. It was like the most.
Shelter was pretty great.
The most hours I've put into a Fallout game, and so this might be kind of that bridge for me, much more so than Pokemon, to get in there, because I am horrible at Battle Royale and Fortnite, but the single player part of Fortnite I've loved and have played a lot over the last couple of years. So that's my 2 cents.
That's an interesting take. I think the reason why Fallout maybe doesn't resonate with people like us who are more into the Elder Scrolls franchises from Bethesda is because I feel like there's never like the personalization. Like, no, that's not the right word. I think there's not something that I can connect with in the Fallout world. And there's something about the world of Elder Scrolls that feels more realized, that feels more immersive, and I feel like I can grab onto it, and there's
more
identifiable.
Like almost. Yeah.
I mean, there's just more options in the Elder Scrolls. You can pick your race. You can pick like fun powers. You can kind of like mess around with combat a lot more. Fallout's much more streamlined in that sense. Like, you're a human, enjoy, and then also here's a bunch of guns. Like that, you can't like shoot fire from your hand, which is pretty fucking cool. So
it's true. I was a fire mage.
I do love both franchises, to be clear. But this, I mean, when they were announcing the thing, I was kind of like, I knew it wasn't going to be another follow-up. And even if in some weird ass universe, everyone at Bethesda hauled ass, made a brand new like Fallout 5, I wouldn't want it yet. Like, it's too soon for me. I need time to like marinate, because it's such a sort of like depressing, shitty world. Like, it's not a place where you're like, man, I really miss like walking through the wasteland, looking at everything being destroyed.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting what you guys have said, especially you, Britt, with the like this is gonna scratch that State of Decay itch, because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I could maybe see it for that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully.
Because as Andrea and I will talk about later, we played more State of Decay together, and it was real mediocre.
That's a good word to use. Mediocre. It was real mediocre.
I'm ready to talk about that.
But I ended up staying up until 3 a.m. that night, Steimer. We'll talk about it. Next announcement in the week of announcements, Lego DC Super Villains is coming. So this is another one of those Walmart Canada leaks that has now come true. We're gonna have to keep a tally, a tally mark of which of these actually of all of their things that they leaked actually happens. So it's coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on October 16th. And for the first time, a LEGO game is giving players the ability to create and play as their own DC supervillain throughout the game. The character becomes the center of the story while teaming up with an iconic variety of villains to adventure through the hilarious and original story written in collaboration with DC.
I'm into it.
Yeah, I mean, TT Games
Sounds fun.
knows what they're doing, and it's time for LEGO to come to Switch.
Yeah. I hope it's not like I hope it's the same thing across all platforms because sometimes Switch isn't really handheld though, so I think it'll be okay. It's one of those things where like sometimes they had that version but on a more portable system and it wasn't quite the same.
I think it's ready. I think it'll be streamlined.
Yes. That's all I've ever wanted.
Yeah, I get like Stick of Truth vibes from like creating your own character and having the universe react to your character. Like, I hope it's kind of funny like that. I hope the villains are like not into you, you know, and like give you a bunch of stuff and just say that like your gimmick is stupid and your costume is dumb. And like, I'm looking forward to you kind of being like sticking out like a sore thumb.
So what are you, guy and gals, most excited about? Because honestly, like this is something I just don't have that much interest in. And it could be because I'm just not really a superhero, supervillain kind of chick.
But you love co-op games. How have you not been into these games?
I've played Lego games before and they're fine and they're fun. And it's been a long time since I played them. And so I'm just kind of like, do I want to hop back in? Have they made any major changes since I last played them like 10 years ago? Is it the same thing?
I just personally like villains way more than I like heroes. Which should not be surprising for anybody.
No.
But like the fact that I get to make my own, hell yeah, I want to make my own villain.
And the world reacts to what you create is what it sounds like.
That's what it
Is
sounds
that what
like.
you were saying, Brandon?
We'll
Oh,
see.
okay.
I don't know. That was my
Yeah,
my
we're
take.
gonna obviously
Just
see
on the
more
story.
about this at E3 because Warner Brothers is hopefully gonna bring this game to E3.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the stuff that's happening and that's getting announced over the next couple of weeks, a lot of it is just to like get the announcement out in front of the noise of E3, and we're gonna get, you know, a deeper dive into most of these titles. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah. So, next announcement. Speaking of hopefully getting a deeper dive at E3, Sega has announced Team Sonic Racing is coming this winter to PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So this is being developed by Sumo Digital. Players can race as a team and work together using various moves and special items, aka wisps, to aid their teammates ahead and get ahead of the competition. The game will support both online, multiplayer, and local co-op with up to 12 players per race, 4-player split-screen support included. There will be an introductory story-centric adventure mode that will be available for players to familiarize themselves with the game and its wide array of characters. Team Sonic Racing will boast a roster of 15 playable characters from the Sonic universe, including Sonic, Tails, and Shadow.
How amazing would it be if Sonic wasn't in this game? And it's called Sonic Racing.
That'd be great.
It would be a really
Not
big
this
troll
time.
move. I'd be into it. Along with specific types, be it power, technique, or speed, the game will also feature various customization options, allowing players to adjust the performance and look of their vehicle. So Brandon and I got a chance to
Mario
try
Kart?
this. We can't talk about it yet, but Sonic Racing, y'all.
It's a thing that's happening.
It's a thing that's happening.
Sonic.
Yep.
The previous games were good. They were fun.
Yeah.
Were they? I've
Disney
never played
Infinity
a
brought
Sonic
on
racing
Sumo
game.
Digital for the racing stuff in Infinity, RIP.
Rip.
Because of their pedigree. Like, I remember it was fun meeting that team through that game and having them be like, yeah, we just love racing and we love doing fun things. And the team aspect, I think, is a promising addition.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
Differentiates it a little bit.
Yeah, and there's also all those rumors going around about the next Star Fox game and how it's going to be like a racer/shooter of sorts. And I mean, I'm sure there are Star Fox fans out there like, but for me, if I'm going to get into a racing game, I like Mario Kart just fine, but I kind of lose interest very quickly. But if there's some sort of like co-op adventure aspect of it, I think I'm much more likely to try it out. And that's honestly the only reason why I'm interested in Team Sonic Racing is because of that announcement. So I think that's cool. Go team. Rah rah.
Go team.
How you doing, Andrea Renee?
Listen, it's been a long couple of weeks going into E3. My brain's a little mushy
I still haven't slowed down since Judges Week. Literally, since Judges Week happened, I'm still going. Like, I still haven't had that day where it's like, wow, I'm not doing anything today. Like, no, I'm not complaining or anything. It's just woo.
That's that time of the year.
Listen, I'm right there with you, Mr. Jones. It's been a whole month, and there's more to do and more to talk about in the news, if you can believe it. So this is something I wanted to include because I would love to hear what you have to say, Brandon. So Intellivision is making a new console. Does this sound unfamiliar? Unless you're of a certain age, it probably does. Intellivision Entertainment is proud to announce that it'll bring the concept of simple, affordable, family, and fun, all capital letters there, ladies and gentlemen, the press release, back into homes across the world with the introduction of a brand new home video game console.
That's real cocky.
Dude, listen, just that line alone makes me roll my fucking eyes. Are you kidding me right now? If I wasn't trying to actually relay the news, I would just stop right there. But let me go on. The new Intellivision system, named TBA, will carry on the company tradition of firsts with its new concept design and approach to gaming. Video games live creator and 30-year game industry veteran Tommy Tallarico has been named president of Intellivision Entertainment as the company turns its focus on rebranding and reimagining for the 21st century while paying homage to its legacy roots. Details of the new console will be released on October 1st. So details will be
Why
released.
did you even
talk
tell
to
us
us
now?
until the okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm like, WTF? What are
So
you doing?
Dean Takahashi over at VentureBeat, who has been covering games for quite some time, provided a little bit of context. He says that Tallarico relaunched the Irvine, California-based company, as in Intellivision Entertainment. He is serving as president alongside some of the original team members. Originally released in 1980, the Intellivision console and its successors sold millions of units over 3 decades. The new Intellivision system will carry on the company tradition, as they mentioned in their press release. And Tallarico said, quote, "I see a huge gaping hole in the market now with families in the home.
What?
We will
There's
be
not many
What
holes.
would that be?
Hold
Not many
on, let
holes
me
in
go
this biz right
on.
now.
We will be focused. We will not try to compete with Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. That would be insane. And we would need $1 billion.
You need more than that.
What?
Okay, you're not trying to compete with Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, but you say that you're seeing a huge gaping hole in the market now with families in the home, and that you're bringing the concept of simple, affordable family and fun back into homes. Like, what are you doing, sir?
And we're going to be bringing you a bunch of quote-unquote firsts.
Sorry, I think I'm with you, Andrea, what you're saying. This just sounds real cocky. Real like, hey, I guess we're doing a really cool thing, but we're not going to talk about it for 5 months.
Also, like, your company was garbage. And, like, so maybe don't be talking about how you're carrying on the company tradition of firsts. Like, your company stopped existing.
Man, sorry, I didn't mean to get so fired up.
Brandon?
Brandon,
I don't
what's
know
your...
why
Oh, I'm
I
super
literally
fired up.
don't care about this, but I just think it's funny.
This is frustrating because I'm sure the product will actually be cool. I'm sure this is something that, given the right amount of context in the right time, we could be excited about. But like leading up to E3, to have a tease, to a countdown, to an announcement of an announcement of an announcement, you know, just give us the damn thing, whatever it is. Like this, again, it's just like whatever this equation is for every game always just will fascinate me forever. Like I think in this situation, you have a 2-month gap. You just flat out announce every detail about it. Put it up for pre-order sale on Amazon. 2 months later, it's in stores. Done.
Yep.
Like you don't do this weird build up to a build up to a build up. Like Nintendo didn't do that. And this is obviously building on the success of the NES and the SNES Classic. And of course, there's rumors of a 64 Classic, like whenever that's going to happen. And so it makes sense for you to do this. Like accessibility for a lot of this stuff is fun. I think, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of eager parents out there that want to show their kids, like, this is what, you know, dad or granddad was playing, you know, when we were young. We liked Intellivision. And if I can't get it or see it, or if it doesn't even have a title, not the time to open up the conversation about this. Like,
Yeah.
it's only going to hurt you in the end. And it's a bummer because I'm sure that the box itself will actually probably be kind of cool.
Also, Tommy, I knew that name sounded familiar. I think he was the creator, founder. Oh, you already said Video Games Live in the press release. I
he's
totally
great.
missed
He's
that.
very
Yeah,
passionate
he's great.
and-
And the shows he puts on, phenomenal.
Yeah.
But wow, did not see
Yeah.
that coming.
I
Okay.
think
Weird
like you
campaign.
said, they should have waited to talk about this at all. and then just been like, boom, couple, like right before it. Show me what it looks like. What's gonna be on it? What is it? Yeah. Literally, what is it?
I thought it was interesting kind of seeing the industry react to this, because I know we're all coming off on it pretty negatively, but Casey Hudson, who I follow, if you guys don't know, who works at BioWare, said congrats to at Tommy Tallarico, named president of Intellivision with a new console in development. That was my first game system, so I'm really interested to see where this goes. And that was after they made this announcement this week. It's interesting kind of like looking at the varying degrees of people's personal interactions with the original Intellivision system. But I think the reason why it's kind of rubbing me a little the wrong way is this idea of bringing the concept of simple, affordable family and fun back into the homes, as if no one in the industry is doing that. And that's exactly what Nintendo is doing. I mean, the Nintendo Switch is simple, affordable family and fun. I guess if you want to really nitpick on that word affordable, we could, right?
But that depends on how much this thing is.
I tell you, Andrea, the desperation I see in the youth of America, they're just starving for entertainment,
Oh, yeah.
I see them with their iPads and mobile phones with nothing to watch or play. Like, come on.
No photos to take.
Yeah.
I think that's it too. I think that's exactly what it is. Like, I want this thing. I want Tommy to succeed. I hope this does well for him. Yeah. Like, no ill will, but it's just the cockiness and the what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever of this, that it's like the tone deaf. It's like, what?
So it's maybe not the optimal way to announce your thing.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's all. Because again, I have no horse in this race. Like,
no.
I won't buy this thing. I have zero attachment to Intellivision as a brand. I was too young for that. So, not that I'm young. I'm old.
You're not old, Steimer.
I
Shut up.
like missed. I was like Super Nintendo. That's my jam. Intellivision, get out of here.
Intellivision, get out of here.
Get out of here.
All right. Well, there's clearly like more news this week, but I mean, we could dig into
Anthem. I swear to God, if Anthem announces anything tomorrow, I'm going to be so mad.
Yeah.
Because they just put out a tweet today that's like decoding, and I'm like, wait, what? No, you keep it in your pants.
Well, if you've been watching, so I follow a lot of the people on the BioWare team because I've interviewed so many of them over the years, and they know that I'm a big fan. And so Casey tweeted, the team is putting in an amazing effort getting the Anthem game ready for EA Play. The best part for me is seeing how it's coming together every day. Can't wait for you to see it all soon. And then I was tweeting with Mr. Mike Gamble, who is a producer over there. What did he say?
He said,
oh my gosh,
I'm a gambling man.
I might gamble and I gamble with my mind. Well, never mind.
That was mind.
No, I don't know. No, that was gonna go somewhere weird. I didn't mean to. I like Mike. He's a fantastic human.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Yeah,
he's wonderful.
He said EA Play is going to be wild. I can't wait to see you there. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two about this Anthem game. So they're all being super coy right now about it. But this was my most anticipated game of 2018. So, and obviously EA was like, lols, it's not coming in 2018 anymore. But we've talked ad nauseum about how we're all BioWare fans and about how you all love Dragon Age and I love Mass Effect and you love Mass Effect and I love Dragon Age and we're excited for it. Brandon, do you like BioWare games?
I do like BioWare games. I was indifferent to Knights of the Old Republic back in the day because I was a big Star Wars fan, but there was not really... Ironically, I didn't like the turn-based nature of it, and I remember like being like, "This is 800 years ago, and the droids look the same. What's going on here?" Like, I had a lot of really nitpicky, stupid like opinions about KOTOR, but then really liked Dragon Age 1 and like Dragon Age 2. I think the combat was my favorite thing about 2, and Mass Effect has always been that shining game on the hill that I'm just like, one of these days, I'm waiting for that Mass Effect remaster. I'm waiting for that remaster, Andrea, and then it's like, it's time, you know?
Are you telling me that you haven't played it?
I played Mass Effect 1 for about 3 hours and then like didn't like put it down. Was just like somehow I just played another game. Like when I was on during the 360 era, I was playing so many games. Like the 360 is probably my most prolific like years in games, where I was just consuming so much stuff.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
the
just
same for me.
Never really.
But I finished Mass Effect 1 8 times, just so you know.
Yeah, but it has
Like,
nothing to do
you
with
had
not
time.
liking it. Like, and I talked to, and that reaction is probably more than any other franchise in the business. I get that reaction of like, you haven't like.
It's
okay,
fine.
I understand that there was a lot happening on the 360.
Right.
One of the
Especially
best
at that
consoles of
time.
all time.
Right.
But this is one of those things that you got to go back. They're all on backwards compatibility on Xbox One right now, Brandon.
Yeah. You're right. That's
I mean, it's
probably
not
good.
like there's anything else coming up or playable right now. So
Yeah.
you may as well just hop into 3 RPGs.
You know what
Or
I'm
if
saying?
you want to play
Yeah,
Andromeda.
okay,
Brittany,
no time
Brittany,
at
you
all.
stop that right now. You should be encouraging Brandon to jump into Mass Effect. You should not be discouraging. I would recommend maybe looking up a couple ways to get through your optimal playthrough in the first setting. Spoilers. No. Yeah. Don't do that. I did play through my total playthroughs of Mass Effect. I think I've played through all of the games collectively like 12 times. Not each game individually 12 times, but
Yeah.
between my playthroughs
So,
of 1, 2,
between all
and 3. Like too many playthroughs. It's one of the most impactful series on me as a gamer in my entire lifetime. Certainly something that has stayed with me my entire career as a video game on-camera presenter and reporter. I always go back to it as a reference. I also would love a remaster. I mean, I would prefer a remake, but man, I will take a remaster on current gen. Backwards compatibility is a step, but it's not there.
Yeah.
I mean, I would take a Mass Effect. I would take a Commander Shepard collection, much like they did, the Master Chief collection for Halo, and they just included, the Master Chief stories. I would do that. I would play that. I would buy that. I would pay $100 for that.
Wow.
But-
Holy
but-
crap.
I would.
Trying to get back to Anthem. It did. BioWare was Baldur's Gate, right? Back in the day.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was like their
I think
original
like
game.
Baldur's
I think.
Gate, KOTOR 1, and Mass Effect 2 were like the highest highs of that developer, and I would love if Anthem, especially after Andromeda, I would love if Anthem got them that success, that notoriety again. Especially because when Anthem's not necessarily my jam, like it's not like right on the nose. I think it looks really fascinating, but when he went underwater, I was like, okay, in that demo, like, I was like, go on.
Not bad.
Would you like to know more? I was definitely. I think that the demo that we saw was very choreographed, which always. I get a little prickly when I see stuff like that, especially when you get like the dialogue of people like, "Hey, Bill, did you get some cool loot?" And like, "Oh, shut up with your script, stop."
We talked about that on a show,
hate
and we
that
we
stuff.
actually got a lot of hate from that. People were like, "Don't make fun of us," and it's like we're not making fun of
No,
you.
we're
we just
making
think
fun.
it's-
It was just like when they got a legendary item and they're like, "Oh, cool, legendary."
It's poorly written. It's just fake, and it's
Yeah, that's all
we
it
don't,
is.
We don't live in like a fake era of games. We live in the Twitch generation. People want realism. They want to see that. Like there was a great Sea of Thieves trailer. You can that game exudes all sorts of different emotions from people, especially after launch. But like they had a really great trailer in the campaign where you heard people playing the game and reacting to things for the first time.
Yeah.
And you can't fake that. Like once I get one or two trailers like that. You hear people playing something like EVE Online or something, and you can like really hear the excitement in their voices. It's like you can't write a script and do a fake version of that, but super
Absolutely.
promising. And I think going into E3 2018, that's probably like Last of Us Part 2 levels of like, let's see that game in action. Like, let's see no smoke, no mirrors. Like, yes, let's do it, Anthem. Like, knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
Please.
Hopefully you can
Oh,
bang
God,
people.
please.
Expectations are high, ladies and gentlemen.
I know, that's why I'm scared.
It's E3.
Don't be. Let's just like hope for the best.
I'm gonna send all my positive vibes out there
Exactly.
to
So
Edmonton.
I have one more piece of news. I know this news section, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. It was a monster week for news leading into E3. We have one more story that I want to touch on before we take our first break, and it is PUBG Corp sues Fortnite publisher for alleged copyright infringement. So this is something that I think we all saw coming because they threatened it way back in the day. Now they've actually gone through with it. So this write-up comes from Polygon. Julia Alexander over there says, PUBG Corp says Epic Games copied its intellectual property. It's taking Epic Games to court in South Korea over accusations that they copied the IP to create Fortnite Battle Royale. Quote, this is a measure to protect our copyrights, end quote, said a PUBG representative. This isn't the first time PUBG Corp has accused Epic Games of copying its designs on PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds for the increasingly more popular Fortnite Battle Royale. The corporation filed an injunction in January against Epic Games Korea, according to the BBC. Epic is now accused of copying PUBG Corp's weapon design as well as the user interface from PUBG. While both games employ similar gameplay traits, Fortnite Battle Royale and PUBG both drop 100 players into a map and make them battle it out until only one person or one team is left standing. There are some notable differences between PUBG and Fortnite Battle Royale. Fortnite encourages players to build forts and craft items in order to defend themselves, and PUBG hasn't incorporated any building skills in the game.
And its vehicles.
Or really updated much at all. Like,
Wait,
Ouch.
Fortnite?
updated
There you go.
stuff. No, I meant PUBG.
Oh, yeah. No, they really
Like,
haven't done.
by comparison,
True.
they're not
True.
doing very much.
So while Fortnite has continued to grow in popularity, attention to PUBG has struggled to match the game's immense popularity. Epic's Battle Royale mode launched in September of 2017, just a few months after Fortnite's initial launch in July. Fortnite remains the most watched game on Twitch, according to analytics site Twitch Metrics, averaging an impressive 187,000 viewers in May, which seems low because I feel like that's what Ninja
Yeah.
gets on like a nightly basis.
It's a weird metric. I don't think that number's right.
Yeah. Even streamers like Dr. Disrespect have called out the player base jumping from PUBG to Fortnite. Cool.
But I guess
Dr.
what I found
Disrespect.
weird about what you just said is that it was like on the basis of the weapons being similar, and I'm like, but PUBG's just guns, just like military guns, like, and Fortnite's gone to some crazy, like the rocket launcher with pumpkins. Like, what? Like, that's not a thing. That's not the cart I'd hitch my horse to.
Maybe just how you unlock them and the tiers of guns, you know, like kind of like the hierarchy of how weapons are, how you get them, you know. And it sounds like the HUD is a lot, but this is like, yeah, I'm waiting for the document. I'm waiting for like the email, the smoking gun, you know, of like, yes, but you sent us this email this one time, and then you directly put that in the game. Because when Epic was developing Fortnite, we were playing PUBG. So like, I don't know what secret meeting that Epic Games, I'm sure there was a lot because they helped with Unreal, you know, so they got their hands on a lot of tech, you know, to work on that. And so clearly there was, you know, clearly this was an idea that they had, not because they were just big fans of PUBG, but they were having meetings with them. So there is a little bit of crossover, but like, who knows what the law is like in Korea? Who knows what question mark.
No, I haven't been following this as
Sorry,
close
go
as
ahead.
probably a lot of. Okay, I haven't been following this as close as a lot of people have, but I just to give you the feeling that PUBG is just real salty about a lot of stuff.
Of
you
course.
know, obviously, right? It's like when Fortnite Battle Royale launched. I remember there was like a press release they put out or something, and we talked about it on this show. And then now, obviously, they're suing Fortnite, and then when Call of Duty announced their Battle Royale, I feel like I can't remember what their wording was, but they put out kind of a cocky tweet about it. And it's like, dude, just you do you. Improve your own game. Worry about yourself. Your game is janky as hell. You know, yes, Steimer, you're putting up a finger.
I'm
It's a
putting
very,
a finger
very
only
nice finger.
because thank you. I just got a manicure. It's they aren't incorrect in that they do need, like, if they have a copyright and they feel like someone's infringing upon it, they do technically have to like sue that person. Epic sued a person. Epic sued a teen.
14-year-old, yeah. I remember that.
Like, let's just not forget when Epic Games sued a 14-year-old. So, if that's truly all this is just them trying to like, hey, we kind of need to do this because otherwise, like, we shouldn't have even had this copyright in the first place, which is what I would argue. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not like mad at them for doing this, but I think it's not going to do them any favors in the public relations department.
No, you're right. I think this is like it's just making them look bad. I mean, over at Forbes, There's an editorial from Eric Kane, who's a contributor over there. And he is talking about how he thinks this lawsuit is silly and absurd. And one of his... just two of the paragraphs, and it says, the problem with this lawsuit is simple. You can't copyright a gameplay mode or a genre. If this was the case, every tabletop RPG after Dungeons and Dragons would have been sued into oblivion. Every first-person shooter after Wolfenstein and Doom would have also been hit with a lawsuit. It's like trying to copyright basketball or hockey. You can't do that. What you can copyright are assets, but many of PUBG's assets are simply ones purchased from the Unreal store. The game itself, which I enjoy and think is fun, is just about as generic as you'll ever see. The island is big and brown and forgettable, and the character models and skins and items are generic and unremarkable. PUBG has nothing distinct about its world or story that would hold up in court. I think that's a little harsh, but also not totally inaccurate.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. If that's what it is, if it's like, hey man, that's our game mode, rah rah rah, it's like, okay, well, Doom should sue everybody. Doom should just get everything. But again, this is I follow this, but I don't know the nitty gritty details, and I'd have to refresh myself on that press release they sent out and that tweet they sent to Call of Duty or about Call of Duty. But my overall perception is just like, damn, dudes, like, calm down.
Chillax.
Chill out. You're gonna be fine. Just fix your game, make it better. There's room for this. Isn't gonna
be fine if they keep doing this.
Well, no, you're gonna be fine if you work on your shit. But the Battle Royale is not going away. Like, this is not a mode that's going away. And so it's just gonna get more. There's gonna be more and more. So just focus on yourself right now. And
they should be like
done.
more focused on
Hey.
using the fact that they were like the first or one of the first to like really popularize it and like use that in your marketing and like use it to improve your game. Also make your game free to play. Like, there's so many things you should be doing right now. Yeah. And I just don't see a lot of movement yet. Maybe they'll come out with an announcement soon and they'll be like, here's all these wonderful changes.
Yeah,
this will go, hooray!
Exactly. This just goes back to like what I said when they originally were like, we're planning on taking legal action against them, and then it kind of like set Fortnite off on this like crazy upward climbing.
And then people were like, oh, let's check this out.
I said, Pepsi doesn't pick a fight with Coke. Pepsi just exists alongside Coke and knows that Coke is there. Yeah. And also Coke doesn't even bother talking about Pepsi. They won't acknowledge Pepsi's existence. They're like, we're fucking Coke. But like, they both exist and it's fine, and there's an audience for both, and there's nothing
Coke's
wrong with two colas existing next to each other. I don't know.
Yeah, this will be. I'm really curious to see how this turns out.
I don't think it's gonna turn. Yeah, it's telling that they're doing it in South Korea and not in the United States.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's where the main PUBG core is, but yeah.
Right, but
that's it.
Right, but I mean, if they want to really like go after Epic, an American company, they would probably need to go after them in the United States, would be my guess.
Yeah, but I think their office here is like 10 people. They're not lawyers either.
Oh, you're talking about PUBG Corp.
I'm talking about PUBG Corp.
Yeah.
Like, their main campus is South Korea.
Well, obviously, yeah, because they're a Korean company. But I digress. Anyways. This is a bad look. Hopefully it goes away soon. Okay, we're going to take a break now. Thank you for hanging with us almost 90 minutes into the show.
Oh, boy.
We're going to take a brief break. When we come back, we have games to talk about. Brandon and I played a couple things at Judges Week. Brittany's been playing some stuff. Steimer's been playing some stuff. So stay with us. We will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to segment 2 of the What's Good Games podcast. This is where we're going to talk about what we've been playing, our hands-on impressions, and because we've got special guest, Mr. Brandon Jones here, who was with me at Judges Week just a couple weeks ago. There's a couple embargoes that have lifted, meaning we can give you our hands-on impressions of the games. So the first one that I'd like to talk about is We Happy Few. So this is a game that we heard about first, 3 years ago now? I feel
like a million years ago.
Maybe longer.
It does feel like they've been talking about this game forever. So it went to early access on PC closed early access. It was a really small test group of people that were playing it. And it's supposed to be launching. Do we even have a launch date? I'm looking here.
I don't know.
I don't know
remember.
either.
Oh my god.
Let's see.
If you don't have a launch
here.
date, stop talking about your game.
It says over on Polygon, they say new players can get the game on PlayStation 4, Windows PC, and Xbox One for $59.99.
But
Starting.
The game's full narrative is planned for release this summer as part of We Happy Few's 1.0 update, which will be free to early access players, and new players can get it. So I guess this summer is when it's supposed to be coming out.
all right. Brandon has his kitty
Unclear.
keeps hopping behind him, and it's real cute.
Oh, the cat.
The cat.
Brandon's
That's a
cat
good
is
cat.
making a starring role on What's Good Games this week. So, for people who are unfamiliar, We Happy Few is set in an alternate history 1960s era England, and its narrative nature is a major departure from the game's origins. And it's kind of like a roguelike survival adventure. So the story is about 20 hours worth of gameplay, which is pretty big for a small team and a small game. And you'll play as one of 3 different playable characters. It has a very BioShock vibe out the gate. The art style is obviously very different, but it kind of has that artsy, narrative-driven, exploratory, but scary and a little weird and creepy thing happening. The combat is where they diverge quite dramatically, because the combat in BioShock is chef's kiss amazing. It's very good. And the combat here is
Not as good.
it's a hard okay. It's just okay. But I think the narrative elements are really kind of what shine here. So Brandon, had you played this game in early access, or was your hands-on time at Judges Week your first experience?
First time. I did have an extensive conversation with Daniel Bloodworth from our team, and he had played the big kind of crazy open-ended preview. Yeah, this is one of those games that I thought was like out. I mean, I guess it was because it was in early access, but it was a game that I had received so many details about, even though I hadn't played it. And so when I found out that was at Judges Week, I was like, what exactly are we playing today, and how different is this? And from what I hear and from what I played and what I remember, it was very different. The
Yeah, so
style.
we played about 90 minutes of gameplay. And in my notes here, I have... It has an interesting way of teaching tutorial mechanics. For example, if you sit down in a chair, the character Arthur, who we were playing as, will say, "Oh, they can't see me when I'm sitting here with my newspaper, unless I've already interacted with them, and then maybe they can." And I was like, "Oh, is that you trying to tell me how to stealth mechanics with the chair? Okay, cool." I have here, feels very BioShock with vending machines, searching toilets, rotten food, etc. Arthur gives a lot of info by talking to himself. There's a lot of kind of disturbing narrative bits that come around. So from what we played, it kind of feels like there's this narrative arc that's happening. I don't know the whole story, but there's something that happened with the Germans where all of the kids are gone. Like the English people like voluntarily gave their kids away to the Germans. Now there's like no babies left in England. Is that kind of what you got from that, Brandon?
Yeah, I didn't get into the specifics of like whose fault it was or who the initial targets were, but yeah, we're definitely on the other side of some big restructuring of how society works. And I think what was interesting was, from what I understand, what Bloodworth checked out, that was very much you in the system. I think what you played before was like the beginning of the game, and I think it still is, and we played something that was a little further along in the campaign. And so what we played was kind of like on the other side of the set, if you will, the facade of this society. And so now you're kind of seeing people that live outside of that, and kind of what, obviously very poor, very run down, kind of like, not necessarily post-apocalyptic, but just kind of like, going through the war-torn ruins of a bombed city and just seeing these beautiful buildings and structures, but destroyed, and, have the nature has kind of overtaken some zones.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole premise of kind of We Happy Few is that the people who are left, who are surviving, are on this drug called joy. And joy is meant to kind of alter their brain so that they don't see the world for the reality that it is, that they are kind of in this like ethereal state or this euphoric state where they don't recognize what reality is. And you are not on joy, and you end up being cast out into the parts of the countryside where people who can't process joy, because apparently there's certain types of people in this society who don't react with the drug joy, and so that they're like kicked out of the villages, and they're sent to like kind of like scavenge on their own in the countryside and fend for themselves. And so you kind of find yourself in this camp. And what I was doing is, so this is all first person, by the way, so first person action adventure, survival adventure game. There's a lot of survival elements. So you have to carry a canteen to fill it up with water to get your thirst, because thirst is a mechanic you have to manage. And then there's, if you get injured, you have to manage yourself with bandages. But if you have dirty bandages versus clean bandages, you can get an infection. And if you get an infection, you have to find the special tea that you have to make by crafting, by gathering components. And then there's food to replace your stamina. But if you eat rotten food, if you eat rotten food, it can give you food poisoning. And then you need to take another drug to fix yourself from that, or the food poisoning can kill you. There's like a lot of moving parts to the survival mechanics. And then there's also stealth mechanics, which seemed pretty basic. Your typical stealth, you crouch, you can hide around objects. You can, if you kill somebody, you can hide their body, but you can also like not kill people if you prefer. But
you can throw bottles to distract people.
Exactly, the distractions. If you kill people, apparently you get blood on your clothes, and other characters can see the blood. But there are certain items you can buy in the vending machine that will clean all the blood off of your clothes.
Okay.
So kind of
what if you just wore red like all the time?
Right.
Like Deadpool?
Or black.
It's more like viscera, kind of, like an esophagus here and some intestines there. Like,
yeah.
How are you killing these people? Like, you can cleanly kill someone.
Well, that's a good question about why you're killing them. Your motivations. So a lot of the narrative parts, clearly they kept kind of vague, because this was meant to showcase the gameplay, because they don't want to spoil too many of the narrative elements, which, I understand. I actually really enjoyed my time with the game. There was the one kind of forced combat encounter that we got into, which, I'll kind of leave the details around that aside, so as to not spoil it. But it just, the combat still feels, a little clunky. Doesn't feel that great. But I liked the narrative elements of the game, and I really thought that this was a game that I would be intrigued to learn more and to find out who these other playable characters are and kind of find out what happens to this society and where you go. Brandon, kind of what were your takeaways?
My takeaways from this, it was unfortunate because there was a lot I liked about the game and a lot that I thought would need some more polish. Or maybe there's some systems that aren't necessarily blending really well. The characters are really great. I think everything is better when it's British, and so it's like there's just that great, lots of crazy characters that you meet, and lots of great that's terrible. I'm sorry, I'm not like, making fun of people.
That was amazing. I was really excited. Keep doing it.
They're very expressive, and they have a really great, like you said, like really great kind of BioShock aesthetic. It's almost like a BioShock mixed with a Dishonored, and so kind of almost like a Tim Burton-esque feel to at times. And we didn't actually get a lot of the painted face characters that were introduced the first time that we saw this. Like, again, this was kind of on the other side of that facade, and so you just kind of met a lot of people that were down on their luck, and some parts almost had kind of like a Mad Max vibe to it, where you're like had like forts where people were really kind of dug in and like protecting their own like gang aesthetics. The animation was really bad. Like the lip sync was bad. Like I didn't get the vibe that like I was really present with these characters. Like that encounter that Andrea that you talked about, like there are stealth mechanics that are fun. Again, just really slight Dishonored vibes. But once you actually get into characters moving around, it's not very smooth. I thought the world was kind of dull, but at the same time, it's supposed to be, because everything is kind of sleepy and sad, and it was creepy to go into a house and see as you were talking about the kids going missing and seeing a crib, and I think he comments like, oh yeah, these people remembered the fact that we had kids. And so that's like kind of one interesting story bit that you kind of get like Tyler Durden flashes of memories that you had, and he has like family members that he's trying to reconnect with or is getting memories of. And so the longer that you go without having taken joy, the more of the horrors of what this happened to this world are resurfacing. And so it was like part of it I was really into and wanted to know more, and other parts I think just weren't really are still in the oven a little bit and being worked on. And so yeah, it was kind of the best and worst I think from the team all at once. And so, but I am curious, and I think it's tough to show a game like this off, a very slow-paced game like this. I think it's tough to show at an E3 because it's like, what slice of this game do we show? And no matter what we do, even if it is an hour and a half, like we got a lot of time to play this. When they came over and tapped us on the shoulders and like, okay, time to play the next game, I was like, no, I feel like I'm close to getting that objective's right there. Let me just turn this in and see if there's a boss fight or something. Or imagine playing BioShock for like 20 minutes. You'd be like, I didn't get the vibe at all. It just kind of seems tough, and the world seems neat, but I just need more, more information. So I think this is a game that really kind of slowly you kind of soak in, and it just kind of grows on you over time.
Is combat
with you there?
Unsettling.
Guns, or is it bonking people? How are you fighting people? I forgot.
Lots of bonking.
So it's a lot of it's a lot of melee. There might be guns later. I only had melee weapons, a lot of like pokey, like had like a sharp stick that I like poke people with.
Okay, that explains the blood. It's a pretty messy way to kill someone.
Yeah, and like the weapons will degrade. There's like a weapon degradation system, which
no,
I hate.
Leave my stick alone.
But out of all the games I played at Judges Week, this was one of my favorites. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. Do
Brandon's
they have
like, really?
Is it rough around the edges?
Oh, I love that. No, that's the best thing about Judges Week is we all take out our own unique interpretations from these tiny things. Again, some of these games are so hard to show, and so it's interesting to see what people really latch onto based on their prior experience or their expectations of what status this game should be in.
I think it's just because I've been interested in this game since they first announced it, and I loved the art style, I loved the concept. I'm a huge BioShock fan, I'm a huge Dishonored fan. So if you're like kind of combining those types of play styles, but clearly this is a much smaller team. Compulsion Games is not Bethesda, it's not Bethesda and Arcane, who made Dishonored, and it's not Irrational and 2K who made BioShock. So they just don't have as many resources, even though they are now being published by Gearbox Publishing. So I get that, I don't want to set expectations up that you're going to get something of that caliber. It's definitely a much smaller experience, but I'm excited to see what the final product is going to be. As Brandon mentioned, there definitely needs to be some polish that needs to happen in order for it to not get dinged for, some basic stuff. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to play it when the final release comes out, hopefully for console in the summer. Don't know if that's actually going to happen. I'll try to get an update on the actual release. The
environments were cool. We covered a lot of ground in that demo and saw a lot of neat stuff, and so it kind of, this is a stretch of a connection, but like almost kind of had that Half-Life vibe of just like, then you do the barn, and then you do the valley, and then you do the mountain, and then you do the cave, and then you're just like constantly moving into new zones and getting a slice of like, wow, that village is screwed up anyway, I'm going over here now. And so it's gonna
I bet it won't be screwed up over here. Oh no.
Yeah, the grass is always greener on the other side. Oh, we're dead. So yeah, I'm excited to discover that world in an organic way and kind of just have to face these tragedies and just move on. Like, sucks to be you guys, but I got a mission. I got to go to the train station or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So one more game that we played at Judges Week that has an embargo that is up is Underworld Ascendant. So this is a game that I didn't really know much about. So this had a Kickstarter campaign, I believe, right? Let me double check this.
Never heard of this game.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Indivisible, I think. So Underworld Ascendant. This is from Other Side Entertainment. It's inspired by games like BioShock and Thief, and it's former Looking Glass and Irrational team members that are working on this game. And it's, how do I describe this? Probably a first-person RPG adventure game. This game...
Go on.
Yeah, so...
You have my attention?
Yeah, so the concept of this game I was into. There's a mix and match of combat, stealth, and magic. You can tailor it to your personal play style. If you wonder, can I do that? You can. So their whole thing when they were pitching this game to us was that they were like, we want players to be able to think of creative ways to get through the scenario that they're in, and they can choose how they want to solve whatever puzzle we put in front of them. That it's all about player choice. And it's like, can you light that thing on fire? Can you douse that thing with water? Can you do this? We're going to innovate in this area. And in a post Breath of the Wild world, I was just watching this presentation going, who do you think you're convincing about these gameplay mechanics as being new and intriguing things? Because Nintendo literally did all of this with Breath of the Wild. And they won a shit ton of awards for doing this innovative gameplay that you are saying that you're making innovative. Brandon, did you get that from that presentation, or was it just me?
Yeah, they mentioned Ultima too, and I think they had some people on their team that had worked in Ultima, so it seems kind of like, I wrote down Ultima Underworld. I don't know enough about Ultima to know if that's like a typo, because it's like, oh, Ultima Underworld Ascendant. Obviously, there's a connection, but I might have written that down wrong. But yeah, it seemed. I'm gonna calm you down, Britt, because you seem like you were excited about that. There was like no story in this. This was purely puzzle-based physics. Jumping, how do I get up there? Like, there's lots of swinging blades here. Do I crawl? Do I wall run? Do I slow them down? Do I light them on fire? And so it kind of seemed, I got Heroes of Might and Magic vibes. So it was playful in that it was fun to kind of get into an open arena and see a bunch of enemies patrolling around and really having like a ton of, like, I love bow and arrow. And so I was, shooting stuff with arrows from a distance and pissing stuff off and seeing it like look around and try to find me. And so it was neat
Must have been the wind.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing.
It was neat to explore a crypt that way, but it definitely felt like a kind of like in a way that like what is the name of the ukulele kind of got brought back. It wasn't necessarily like innovative, but it was innovative because this like Banjo-Kazooie model is something that we've kind of moved away from with platformers.
Oh, and so ukulele. I thought you meant the instrument. I was real confused.
Yeah.
I was like, why are you talking about ukuleles?
Like it's going to be a stretch. And so they seem like they had the same vibe where like we love this old style of game. We don't think anybody's doing this anymore. And so we think there is a probably predominantly PC-focused audience that wants a little more playfulness and experimentation in their RPGs, and so we want to provide that with this. But like,
Brandon, I have an
no
answer.
Story at all.
So that's something I loved about Divinity Original Sin and Divinity Original Sin 2 is it has that mechanic where you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. You want to massacre an entire town, you go on with your bad self and kill everyone. You don't have a key for that door, just beat it down. Just make sure the guards aren't looking at you,
Yeah.
So definitely it's not an innovative new mechanic. So if they were pitching it that way, then that's a little silly. But it's interesting.
So let me read a little bit from the website, so underworldascendant.com. It says, from the creative minds behind the acclaimed Ultima Underworld series in Underworld Ascendant, Other Side Entertainment is innovating upon the series' signature player-authored gameplay in bold new ways and bringing the immersive sim genre forward in a breathtaking fantasy realm, rife with danger and full of intrigue. Return to the Stygian Abyss in Underworld Ascendant, the action RPG designed to maximize player choice. Journey through the unfamiliar, unlock your creative potential, utilize your environment to stack the odds in your favor, devise the ideal plan to overcome the challenges you face, or dive in and think on your feet. So obviously a lot of that's like hardcore marketing talk, right?
Sounds real good.
My breath was not taken away.
No, so here's
certainly the environments. I was not like, it was
breathtaking.
Like, it's a dungeon, okay, and it was like, oh, this is neat that I can light that on fire and see. Again, it was like a playground. It was just fun to experiment,
right?
But I was never.
But there was no
I have
story.
The power. Like it was not that.
No, there was literally no story whatsoever. In fairness, we did not have nearly enough time to play this and to play any kind of an RPG. We had like 30 minutes, 40 minutes maybe with this. I barely got the controls like under my feet by the time they were like, all right, on to the next game. That's one of the downsides of Judges Week. But the thing that stuck with me is like the characters were literally just skulls or just like skeletons. And they're supposed to be this breathtaking fantasy realm. And you're going to show me a skeleton character as my enemy? Okay.
Says the Stygian Abyss is inhabited by 3 factions vying for its control. Dark elves, dwarves, and shamblers. I'm assuming the skulls are shamblers.
I guess. I just was not impressed by this in any way, shape, or form. And in the incredibly crowded action RPG genre and with people doing really amazing things, like I said, in a post Breath of the Wild world and now in a post God of War world.
Yeah. Man,
if you're going to throw around words like breathtaking, innovative, bold, you better back that shit up. And right now, from what I've seen of Underworld Ascendant, it's none of those 3 words.
You're not going to have God of War and Zelda people migrating to this.
No.
This again, I think this is the kind of thing where like watch the trailer, watch 30 seconds of gameplay. If you're like, oh, I know exactly what this game is, then that's the game for you. But if you're like, what's going on here? It's like probably not something you're going to have a lot of patience for in 2018.
Precisely.
Noted.
All right. So let's move on to some other video games. Miss Brittany,
Hi.
you played quite a few things since we talked to you last. So on here,
You didn't tell me about Pokemon Quest. You skipped over that because you went back to your list.
So let's talk about Pokemon Quest.
Okay, so Brandon, you played this too, right?
Yup.
Okay, so we can hammer this together because I haven't played too much of it. So hammer it. Okay, so like the press release and like we talked about, you are in Temple Cube Island and you have Pokemon that kind of wander this island. And the game plays, there's a loop here. So you have your Pokemon, you choose what Pokemon you want. And then that Pokemon runs around these, they're called expeditions. It's like a little arena. And they take like 2 to 3 minutes to go through. The Pokemon auto runs. You don't control it at all. The only thing you do is tell it how to attack. And there's 2 icons. And they have a little recharge meter. So if you tell it like Charmander to scratch, okay, and then scratch. And then fire has a fire attack. They both cool down. And then once it's done, you hit another one and off you go. You can have up to 3 with you at a time. You can do like an aerial and 2 close combat. There's some strategy you can do there. So you pick your Pokemon, you do this expedition, you go through a few waves of Pokemon, and then at the end there's a boss at every expedition. You take down the boss, and then at the end you get these things called Power Stones, and you get health buffs and experience points. And as your Pokemon levels up, it unlocks these sockets. And there's 9 sockets per Pokemon. Each one has a varying amount of power sockets and health buffs. The power sockets are essentially its strength. The health sockets are how much health it has. And as they level up, you unlock the sockets. You put the health or the power into those sockets, and your Pokemon gets stronger. After each level as well, you get these ingredients, which you go back to your base, and you cook. And depending on what you cook, you attract Pokemon to your base, and they become your friend. And now they are part of your party.
Wait, so there's a very minor Viva Pinata element to this.
Possibly. I don't know the Viva Pinatas.
And they all kind of hang around at your base. You see all
Yeah.
the Pokemon that are in your collection. You
cute.
see them all interact and stuff. We had a Rattata and one of the first...
Pidgey.
not
Sandshrew.
Spearow, Pidgey,
Oh.
yeah. We
hey,
had
that was a good
Pidgey,
guess.
and the Rattata was on the Pidgey. Like the Pidgey was
Yeah.
flying around, and the Rattata was like riding it around. We were like, fun
It's
aesthetic
cute.
there.
And so, so in order to get new Pokemon, you have to cook. And so the cooking can take like a few expeditions to finalize. So let's say you get something cooking, and then you have to go do 2 expeditions before the meal will be done. So then you go do another expedition. Every expedition, I think there's like 4 or 5 per level.
Like 5.
5, and each one requires more power. So obviously you want to continually be equipping your Pokemon with higher power stones so you can match that power level that you need. After you do a certain amount of expeditions, you come back, you look at the Pokemon you've attracted, you cook again, rinse, wash, repeat. So it's a free to start game, and what that means is that you have a battery in the top of your screen, and after you can do so many expeditions before you have to start waiting to do them again. So it's kind of like, does that make sense? It's like a typical.
Wait, what? It's like a
It's a
phone
mobile
game?
It's a mobile game, and it's coming
yeah.
out on mobile at the end of June.
Yeah.
It's a mobile game they launched on Switch first.
Right.
It's like,
So
Wait, what?
So okay. So how it works, Steimer, is
no,
like you
I'm more like, I can't just pay for this game then?
as of right now, no. What I will say though
I
is,
am out.
I mean, I don't think they'll be changing that in the future.
I thought I was going to
No,
be excited for
listen,
this.
no,
I'm
no.
no longer interested.
No, okay, listen. So I put a couple hours into this, and I don't know about you, Brandon, but I haven't had to pay anything or not pay anything.
yeah.
I haven't had to wait. So the first few hours, like it's because as you play, you have things called quests and challenges. They're basically little quests and challenges, what you'd expect. And sometimes you get battery refills through doing those, and so that's how I've found my experience to be, is I have not run out of expeditions. You also get these things called, what are they called? The little tickets that you use to, PM. Okay, so every 22 hours you get 20 free 20 PM tickets. I think it's 20. And that's what you use to expedite your cooking. If you don't want to wait a couple expeditions, that's what you can use to refill your battery if you want to continue questing and you don't want to wait. I think it's like 30 minutes for each expedition to fill back up. And you cannot buy these tickets with real money. So, which is interesting because that was the first thing I looked for, because this is essentially the currency of the game, right? This is what you do to make your cooking go quicker, and this is what you do to make the battery last longer.
Right.
There are expansion packs, or they're called expedition packs, out right now. There's a $5 one that includes like a cooking pot, which increases the number of dishes you can cook at the same time by 1. There's a Pokeball model, which increases the number of PM tickets you receive every 22 hours. And I might be incorrect about getting 20 PM tickets an hour, because I might have been thinking of this number. But essentially, for a $5 flat fee, you will always get 20 more PM tickets every 22 hours.
Oh, interesting. So the microtransactions are kind of different.
Yeah,
And
and
I would have thought you'd just buy the tickets.
And on top of that, you get 100 PM tickets, just like a one-time use thing. And you get special moves, and you get certain things you can use to decorate your base with, which provides you with specific perks, passive perks that help you on your quest. So
but do they look good?
They can if you want. I have a weird Rattata. No, it's not a Rattata. Is it a Rattata statue? It's the first thing you get, Brandon. I don't remember what it is.
There's like 3, stacked up on each other. It's weird.
And so there's a $10 expansion pass, which is a cooking pot again, but then your PM tickets increase by 30 every 22 hours. You get an EV arc, which increases the maximum battery charges by 1, and a Lapras. I said it right, Lapras. Jackasses. They all made fun of me because I called it wrong.
You called
Brandon,
it
she was
Lapras.
saying Lapras.
Lapras?
Lapras.
said
I called
Lapras.
it Lapras, and I'm still gonna Lapras pool, bitches. That's what you get, and it doubles the chances of attracting multiple Pokemon with your cooking. So, and then there's an $18 one, and then you can get all 3. I think for like $35 to $40. It's something around that range. Yeah, it's not the
I don't know, man.
It's not the easiest
I like the
game
art
to
style
explain.
of this game, but
It's cute and it's fun. I mean, I played it for a couple hours last night, and I was like, oh, this is cute. It's not, the Pokemon game I want, but I'm sure, it's a good like pick up and play game. I feel like it's really adorable. The Pokemon look super, super cute, all blocky. I don't know, Brandon, what was your experience with the game?
I'll give this game a shake on mobile. I kind of booted up on Switch and was like, oh, fun, a mobile game. It was so clearly the systems, the gameplay, everything was like there's like a mouse hand you're moving with with the analog stick, and so when you're like attaching these like power stones or whatever and like health stones, you have to like grab it and then move it over to the slot and boot, and you're like, this is a mobile game. Like they didn't even try to like, let's maybe expedite
Optimize
this
it for
process
buttons,
for consoles. But you should see the other allies looking at me funny when I was like, hey, I'm excited about the fact that you can just automate the whole thing. So not only are you just watching them run around and you only activate the abilities, you can just hit the auto button and they'll just go.
Right.
And I kind of get a kick out of that with games. Like I play a lot of silly turn-based games, Marvel Strike Force and Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And in those, you can just be like, okay, fight, Spider-Man, go. And it's just fun to see these characters jump around and attack each other. If it's just mobile, if I'm like at the post office or the bank or like,
Right.
the market or something, and I have like 30 seconds in line to just like, oh yeah, let me just do my dumb missions for the day.
Hold on, I need to tell Pikachu what to do real quick.
Yeah, or not.
Or not.
You do you, Pikachu, and I'm not going to be putting them on like the hardest mission right now.
Right.
I'm just going to pick a mission a little under my current level, get whatever items that I got from that, apply them. It's a kind of game where like you're only frustrated if you just constantly want to be getting the most progression at all times.
Right.
And like this isn't Destiny. This is just a
Yeah.
dumb mobile game that it's just fun to appreciate. Like if you really really love Squirtle, like you're gonna have a great time. Like you're just gonna see him running around. Beating things up.
I kind of feel like now I want like a crossover of Viva Pinata and Pokemon. Like I want to build a little garden. I want the stupid Pokemon to come to it. I want them to be in this dumb blocky art style because I think it's adorable. Can you make me this game, please, someone?
Anything for you, Steimer. Anything for you, baby girl.
I think this game could evolve like Go. It could be a different game in a year. You never know.
And I think that's where the grinding's going to come in. Is like you were saying a little earlier. Not the grinding, sorry. The we're going to have to maybe start paying for things or whatever you want to do. Because I'm at a point where I feel like I need to start grinding a little bit because my Pokemon are dying in battle. And obviously to do that, the wall. You have to the wall. You have to do lower level stuff, and those obviously go quicker, which means you are going to run out of battery charges before your timer's over, and then you can either sit there or perhaps, but you can't buy PM tickets. So it's an interesting model. Like I don't like freemium games; they frustrate me because it's so blatantly obvious that
they just designed it.
Yeah.
Like to get the most money out of you.
But I'm not getting that vibe from this at all.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah, so we'll see.
All right. Pokemon.
Andrea wakes up for her nap. She's like, all right, are we done talking about the Pokemon?
I wasn't
They're so
napping.
cute.
I just they are very cute. And listen, like I'm into mobile games, but I'm to a point now where I'm kind of like, I wish that they would just give me an option to bypass the bullshit time management stuff. Like that is a mechanic. I just am like, my patience is
real thin.
Yeah,
100%. I would
Super
happily
thin.
pay a few bucks for this. I mean, I don't know how much it would be reasonable, but that goes for most of all free games. I'll pay for it. I just don't want to put up with your advertisements and your bullshit.
it's true.
As a marketer, I'm super sensitive to that stuff. I'm like, I know what you're trying to do to me.
Oh,
There's a
doggy.
puppy.
Oh, hello, dog.
Uh-oh.
Doggo.
Sorry.
Your dog's real mad.
No,
She's
it's
upset about something.
special cameo.
What else
Maybe
is
the
new?
zombie apocalypse is happening.
Hopefully not.
So Steimer,
Yeah.
you have been playing Detroit, and we had talked about doing a spoiler cast at some point, but you've also been playing some State of Decay. In fact, we played some State of Decay 2 together.
We sure did, because I was like, surely this game will be much more fun with another person.
Right?
And then it kind of wasn't. Not that was anything,
No.
like, that was not against you, Andrea. I love playing games with you. But I was just like, oh. I mean, it was kind of nice in that we got more stuff. Like, you taught me how to fill up a car, basically, was what happened. And I was like, oh, this is way better than, like, running one backpack to, like, back and forth across the stupid map.
That sucks.
All but the trunk space, yeah.
But then the chunk space. And I'm like, man, if I can, like, I just Tetris the shit out of my friend's car the other day. I can fit more than 4 of these backpacks into this car. I'm
100%
sorry.
yes, you can.
Yeah.
But,
Those fucking rucksacks,
yeah,
man.
I don't know. There's just something about it that I just am already kind of tired of. And I'm not sure how to pinpoint it exactly, but I don't know, like how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much fun were you having while we were playing? I felt like we were mostly just griping.
Yeah, so on a scale of 1 to 10, I was having about a 5.
Yeah, I think
because
that's about right.
you were 5 of those 5 points.
Oh.
Because here's the problem: when we were playing together, when I originally talked about State of Decay 2 last week, I talked about all of the bugs that I experienced and how frustrated I was with all of these bugs, and people wrote in And we're like, I'm not having any of these bugs. I'm having a great time. And even Steimer, you had said, I'm not really experiencing very many bugs when I play.
Yep.
But when we played together,
it got way worse.
the bugs were real bad, and
Yeah.
the glitches were bad, and like the way the car was moving was bad, and the rubber banding, and
There
the
was screen tearing.
Like,
I was like, I don't think I've seen screen tearing in years.
So I played co-op with Jason before it released. We both had a review code, and it was weird because I was looking forward to playing it. Every time we quit a game session, we would talk about it and be like, yeah, I can't wait to play tomorrow, it'll be fun, blah blah blah. But then as we started progressing into it and started getting to the base building, Jason was joining my game and he couldn't see the facilities I was building. It was like there were NPCs like in the medical area just hanging out, floating. They're on a bed, but he couldn't see the bed. The screen tearing, the rubber banding, it just really
it's bad.
hurt.
I'm just
It
gonna
hurt
say
the
it.
experience. Yeah, it was bad,
It's
and that's
bad.
the reason why we stopped playing. And I said, I can't. I have all these other games that I really want to play right now, and I hope this gets better. I hope there's a day one patch. I hope there's something that's going to improve this experience because we had a lot of fun playing together, but it was just such a bad experience because of all the technical issues.
Yeah, my other
Performance bugs aside, I think the biggest thing, which actually I may have just cut you off from talking about,
No, you're good.
was that like the fundamental design of the co-op to me as we were playing, I was like, wait, that's how it works. So Andrea, go ahead and tell the fine people what was going on.
So one of my biggest problems with co-op, like as Steimer said, like bugs and technical shit aside, was I kept getting notifications about what was happening with my community, not Steimer's community who I was playing in, but my community. My community was low on materials. My community felt this way, and my community needed more medicine. So when I would go to pick up a rucksack, I was like, well, I wonder if I can keep this and then bring it back. But in order for me to do that, I would have to leave Steimer's game, load back into my community, drop off the rucksack, load back into Steimer's game. And like that whole process is not easy to do. And so whenever I pick up a rucksack and I would go to Steimer's base, I would donate it to her. Like, so when you're in multiplayer, the items you have on your person or in your backpack, you get to keep. But rucksacks in particular, if you drop them off at the community of the person whose game is the host, then you're donating those items. And so your community is still using shit back home, but you can't fulfill any of their requests because every rucksack you pick up goes to the host. There's no option to say, oh, I'm going to donate to the host or I'm going to send to my community. That button just didn't exist. Or if it exists, I don't know where it is. I couldn't find it.
That's interesting because when we started playing, Jason and I, he hadn't even founded his first community yet. And so he wasn't getting those notifications. So are you saying that while you're playing Steimer's game, your community still needs you?
Yes.
It's still using resources.
Oh, that's bad.
So she was getting like, I was hearing
Yeah,
them
that
too.
doesn't sound attractive at all.
No.
And it was just like, oh, like they're mad. And you're like, well, how do we fix it? And like, oh, you can't. You literally have to leave this game and like go. And I also thought it was kind of like, we eventually figured it out. But I feel like even when you needed to switch players between your community, that was also kind of a pain in the ass. Like it wasn't an easy
I had to
co-op
look it up
experience.
in a walkthrough. So when my character got tired, because that's one of the stupid survival mechanics in this game, and because they get tired really easily, you need to rest your character. I couldn't figure out how to rest my character. So I realized that I had to go into this one menu system, go over to my community, select a community member, and then swap them out. And once I figured it out, I was like, oh, okay. But the game doesn't tell you how to do that. And the really other frustrating part is like the weapon degradation system that exists there and having to like go to your vaults or your supply locker, and then you put things in the supply locker, and then you have to have enough resources to repair it, and you have to make sure you already have a workshop established. I just like, so the irony of me talking about my frustrations with this game after playing with Steimer's like, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. And I'm like, yeah, me too. And it was like
midnight.
Yeah, it was like midnight. And I stayed on and played for like another 3.5 hours.
Were you just fixing your base because of how jacked it was?
So I went back to my game and was like, okay, I gotta go get this. I gotta go get this. This person needs this. This person's depressed about this. And I spent those 3.5 hours just going and on a scavenge to get the base materials. But during that whole process, more infestations kept popping up, and so I would go and take care of the infestation, but then materials would get used, and then they would get sad because the materials are gone. So I would go get the materials and bring the materials back, but then they get sad because another infestation popped up. And because of the way the progression system worked, and because they made cars so fucking scarce in this game, and it takes forever to run anywhere, I was stuck in this loop of getting supplies, bringing them to camp, going to an infestation, clearing it out, going back and getting supplies. That's literally the entire gameplay loop of State of Decay 2. And it would be more fun if I could do it quicker, so I could get to a point where my community was at least stable long enough that I didn't have to worry about supplies, so that I could go and finally start attacking some of these plague hearts, because I couldn't progress past the first area where my first community is because I couldn't attack these infestations fast enough. Every time I turned around, there was other 5 hordes approaching my base, and I'm just like, I couldn't. So finally I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, I loved the survival genre, and actually this whole idea of having a base in the zombie apocalypse where you have a bunch of people that you need to take care of, but you also need to go out and scavenge for stuff, and you also need to progress in the campaign. I'm waiting for the publisher to nail it. I've been waiting for so many years, and like we keep getting different offerings. The first State of Decay, I was like, is this? No, it's not. All right, new next game. And then when I saw State of Decay 2 at last year's E3, I was like, okay, it seems like you're streamlining this so much more, and you've learned the lessons, because there's a lot in State of Decay that was confusing. And it's interesting that you guys talked about playing this late at night. I think it was last Tuesday when I was cutting the podcast, again, like late at night like I do. And it came out, and I was like, okay, I'm tired, but I want to play this. And I like get through the little tutorial area and then get to my base, and they're like, your inventory's full, go drop off your items. And I'm like, okay, where do I do that? And they're like, you do that at this thing. And so I go up and I drop it off, and I like go into my items and press the button to drop it off, and like it doesn't do it. And I'm like, wait, is it here? And I gave that like 5 to 10 minutes to be like, where am I? You know what? I'm done. I was like, I think when you have survival games, that first half an hour needs to be a lot of fun. Like you need to like get me buried into this thing and set up a really strong base for the base, like a concrete, that everything else is built upon, so that when things start getting tough, I'm addicted to it now. Like now I care so much about these people that I'm supporting and this base that I'm protecting, because I got off on the right foot, and now everything's going wrong and systems are breaking, but I at least understand what I'm supposed to be doing. And this seems like the kind of game where it's like, I'm sure the developers have a lot of fun because they know everything about this game, and so they can start a playthrough and start kicking ass right away. But if I'm just being introduced to this and I'm just sitting there staring at a menu being like, okay, what if I move this over? It's like, this guy's hungry. It's like, tell that guy to shut up for 5 seconds, because I have no idea what I'm doing, and it's like...
Yeah. They don't ease you into that. I feel like that was another issue I had with the game is, there wasn't that nice like build up to like, oh, things are getting hairy and there's a lot of things going on. It was just like, here's the deep end of the pool. Enjoy.
Yeah.
And because it's just like, oh, not only do you need to manage the resources, some asshole came and stole a bunch of your stuff, and then like, oh, I'm radioing you from this stupid house over here, and I want you to come help me. And I'm like, I can barely help myself at this point. You're gonna need to take a seat.
And it's like what you said, Britt, like I have so many games to play, and I'm sure I would maybe get better at this if I like put in a couple hours and then maybe restarted and did those first 2 hours again, and I could like get a much better momentum. But like, I don't know if I want to be frustrated when I'm playing a game right now. I don't know if I want to feel stupid. I'd rather just play something else that challenges me in a smarter way, I guess.
It's like you said too, Brandon. Like I see the potential there, and I see there's like a few little tweaks that I'd like to make personally for my ideal State of Decay 2 game. For one, like I wish Jason could manage my base with me, but instead I have to manage it all on my end, and he can't really participate in that. I also wish, once you clear out like a house or something, it doesn't get taken over again because a new infection pops up, and that sense of completion and making progress is lost. And then I also know, I think, Andrea, you were there when, Jeff, he was the guy helping us with our demo, said the biggest base that someone was able to manage was like 12 people or 13 people or something like that. And to me, it's like, I just want to keep adding people. I want to build bases. I want to build turrets, and I want, I had different idea of more of like a tower defense-y kind of base, and this isn't that. And the potential's there, but it's just with all these bugs and technical issues, I just can't right now.
Well, I think
sucks.
even if the I can't remember what the currency is for getting outposts. What do they call it?
Reputation.
Like even if maybe like you got that a little bit more or faster, because like
they drip feed that shit to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because I'm like, okay, I have like 3 outposts at this point, and like, but they're all, I'm just like, okay, I feel like I'm not making any progress. I think that's the problem with the game, is it's not giving me a good enough reinforcement of like, look, you've been doing it's made a difference. I don't feel like I've made a lick of difference in the hours that I've played.
Yeah, and I know some people love that about this game, but for me personally, it feels it's too stressful. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not fun management. It's like
busy work. It's chores.
It is work.
Chores. Yeah, and it's work and it's chores, and I know some people love that, but I just don't think this is the game for me right now. Maybe I'll make improvements down the line, and I'll hop back into it. But
I could have seen myself like being more into this when I was younger. But at this point of my life, like, I don't play video games all day, every day.
No.
So the ones that I do play, like, I want to have a fun time with. Like, feel good.
Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah. So I
think you need to let this one go, Andrea.
No,
Renee.
I am. Yeah. I am. I haven't picked it up since. After Steimer and I's play session and my late night, early morning foray into it, I decided, I was like, you know what? I think it's time to just call it on State of Decay until they make some dramatic technical changes. First and foremost, the bugs have got to be fixed. They are, as I said last week, and will reiterate, are unacceptable, inexcusable, and dare I say, at the risk of offending some people I know in the industry, a little embarrassing?
I don't know that they're embarrassing.
For a first-party game?
For the first party.
But it's not. It's like it is, but it isn't. It's like, it's not like a Sony, or not a Sony. Wow. All right.
It's not Sony. No, you're not wrong, Sam. No, it's not Sony.
No, I meant to say not a Sony-owned studio, but I meant to say Microsoft. Like, they don't. Anyways. Point being, I want to say a positive thing about the game. And that was the achievements were real good. And they were popping like candy. That was the one element of progression they were giving me, was the achievements. And
there was a lot of achievements. That's true.
This feels good.
No,
but the rest of it, not so much.
No, and I think, you ladies talked about this last week. By the way, phenomenal episode with Kimberly Wallace of Game Informer. That was really, really fun to listen to. Coming off of Sea of Thieves, and that launch was, I don't want to say botched, but it just wasn't ideal. And now, State of Decay 2, the other exclusive title that Microsoft is like, hey, look at this cool thing we're doing. And it's like, oh, it's just, I want nothing but the best. I want all these games to do well. I want Microsoft to, like, really get in there and blow our minds and be like, yo, Sony, what up? You got all these awesome things. We got awesome things too, rah, rah. But it's just not looking super good. I think competition is healthy, but right now it's like there's nothing there. It's just like, haha, LOL. Your last 2 games, now I understand kind of why they're on Game Pass. It makes sense.
Ooh.
No, I mean,
right at the kneecaps.
Hey, we're all thinking it. It's okay.
Right. Yeah.
And I say that with love, kind of. It's just, I'm calling it like I see it.
You are a very sweet person. I can see you saying that with love.
I say it with love. Just, you gotta do better. I love you. Do well, but get better.
To make sure that this show doesn't go to a record 4 hours in length, I do.
That's what she said.
Want to keep moving on and not dwell too much on this. I just want to give one quick shout out to the What's Good Guardians who raided with me last weekend in Warmind. We did a little Iron Banner. We did a little bit of Callus's raid. We're looking forward to trying out the new raid layer once we grind our way slowly and surely up to light level 370. But thank you to the crew for joining me. That was really fun on Saturday. Brandon and I also got the ability to get hands-on with Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition. Now, Britt, you saw this at PAX. Did you play it at PAX East?
No, it wasn't playable there. It was it just got announced.
So Brandon and I got to play it. Brandon, did you play it at the event that day?
I did.
Okay. So, Britt, I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible because,
Sure.
man,
I'll just listen.
I took some extensive notes during the presentation. So, Larian Studios was there. They, of course, are the developers of Divinity. And this is an indie, with air quotes that I'm saying, because they talked about how they're an independent developer, but there's 150 people working at Larian, and they have 20 years of development experience. So this Definitive Edition is coming to PS4 and Xbox One in August of 2018. You, of course, like any RPG, can create a character, or you can take on a role of one of the 6 origin stories and adventure through a land that constantly reacts to who you are, what you are, each with their own stories and often conflicting with one another. Friendships will be tested in and out of combat. So you can play as both the living and the undead. The world reacts to you and who you are, and choices have tangible consequences. Some of the features, I think these features are of the main game, so I won't go into those. Let me skip those as to what's new. So there is a new journal system that's entirely rewritten journal entries for brevity and clarity, easier to make and track quests, understand what to do and what you've done, to place map markers to better orient yourself, and new party-based inventory system, which is in the Definitive Edition.
Thank God.
In content and modes, there is a revamped third act, which is an additional 40 hours of gameplay to improve upon the 93 Metacritic rating that they got on their PC release.
Hold on, wait.
Sorry,
They're adding an extra 40 hours of gameplay?
That's what they said.
4-0?
That's what they said.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Holy shit.
There's a
This
hot
team does
seat,
not mess around.
PvP arena mode to battle against fan favorite characters. There's a new tutorial that puts players directly into the action. So if you have not played any of the Divinity, the first Divinity or the PC release, there's a new tutorial for you. There's also a new story mode, which is a new difficulty setting for players who want to enjoy the narrative and not get too bogged down with combat encounters.
Baby ass baby mode.
Correct. Plus, there's pre-order DLC available called Sir Lorna the Squirrel.
What? Sounds
a
adorable.
squirrel with an existential crisis. Brittany, this is going to be
Okay.
right up your alley since you were a fan
Amazing.
of Peeper. Was that the chicken's name?
Yes, Peeper.
And so, and because Larian is such an awesome studio, they are giving the Definitive Edition as a free update to everyone who bought the game on PC. So if you already own Divinity Original 2 on PC,
Isn't that rad? I love
you
that.
get all of this
Thank
new
God.
content that's included in the Definitive Edition for
There you go.
free on
Oh my
PC.
god.
But
yeah.
Brittany's going to get it on PS4 so we can play together.
Oh, I'm gonna buy like 5 copies. I won't buy 5 copies. I
You're
will
gonna
buy it
a
for
copy
console.
on every console.
So Brandon,
yeah.
what did you
Go ahead.
think of your playtime?
I thought it was great. I thought it was interesting because I didn't play the beginning. I when the person in front of me finished their demo, they got up and they were like, "I got past all the boring parts. You want to jump in?" And I was like, "Oh, sure." And like, I mean, not boring part, but just if you're
The
especially if
tutorial
you're
is
familiar with
lengthy,
it,
yeah.
replaying the
I get it.
tutorial, you're like, "Okay, let's get off this boat and let's do it." And so it was neat to just kind of jump in and like do everything wrong and just explore areas. And I was picking fights with people. People were yelling at me, you know. Yeah, I think it just seems like such a gift to if you're not familiar with the series. It fits so well on console. The controls really feel great. It was easy to obviously the depth of what characters the person in front of me had picked and what abilities and when to use them. Like that's something that I would have needed to take much more time like to get familiar with. But it just felt really comfortable. It looked great. It seemed like all of the little notes. I think they said 45 pages of improvements. They said when they had like a big grid. The guy made a point to make a very quick presentation. He was like, "Okay, we got this. go play it. And so it almost seemed kind of like something that CD Projekt Red would do, where they're just like so eager to make this game better and not just like we've talked in this podcast about a lot of like PR speak, and it didn't seem like a lot of that was going on here. It was just really tiny, minute details that were slowly making the game, an already amazing game, better.
Yeah, I thought it was really neat. They added some little touches. For example, the adaptive music. So you could,
per character.
Yeah, so you could choose an instrument from a selection of instruments, and whenever your character was doing particularly well in battle, this one instrument would be highlighted in the background music of whatever fight sequence you were in.
Just like kind of
Isn't that so cool? And it works really well too.
I just imagine if like you just a picture a really stressed out dev team, just really getting into crunch, and like Bill in the back is like, what if like if I liked violin, I could choose, like, shut up, Bill, we don't have time. All right, like that's how good this team is. That's how cozy they are. It's how much support they're getting from their community, that they're like, hey, let's do Bill's crazy idea because we can, and it's a great opportunity to just again already make this game that was so polished and so well done and has so many different branching directions you can take the story and just make it even better.
It was interesting for me playing this game for the first time because I was not aware that there was like a turn-based element in the combat, and so because it's right away it feels a lot like Diablo in its at first blush, but it quickly, once you get into it, is not Diablo in any way, shape, or form, right? Like it's just got that isometric top-down RPG feel to it. For people who have played that kind of a game, but the battle system and the way that the combat works is something even with the playtime that I had, I still didn't quite get the hang of it. But towards the end of my play session, I was like, okay, I can see how people like Brittany have really just like sunk 100 hours into this game and really kind of immersed yourself in this world and with these characters. And I would really love to try it in co-op. We didn't get the opportunity to play together at the event that we were at. But as Brandon said, the game looks great and it plays great. And clearly translating something as complicated as an action RPG like this that has multiple key prompts on a keyboard into console can sometimes be challenging for developers. But I think Larian did a really nice job. And I'm looking forward to checking it out.
I am so happy. I just can't get over that 40 hours of extra gameplay. Oh my God. I was already excited, but fuck.
Yeah, if you played it on PC, it's nice that this is also good for you. It's not like in a kind of an announcement you're just going to tune out of because you're like, oh, great, PS4 people get a better version. It's like everyone does. If you've played a bunch or none at all, win.
Steimer, I need to come up with a name for your finger because I feel like it makes mini cameos. Stickly.
No, I was just laughing to myself because I felt like Andrea literally just admitted she wasn't listening to it all when you would talk about Divinity Original Sin back in the day. Because you were like, I didn't know about the combat. I'm like, really? Because Brittany's talked a lot.
No.
Listen.
My point, Steimer, was people can talk about turn-based combat, but as somebody who does not play hardly any turn-based combat, like, it's just not my thing. I only play games with turn-based combat when I'm forced to play them. Like when Alexa Ray was like, you must try Final Fantasy IX on PS4. And I was like, what is this? And so when I said that I didn't understand it, it wasn't like I wasn't listening to what Brittany was saying, but like a lot of combat systems in video games, you don't understand really how it works when someone explains it to you until you play it for yourself. I feel like that's a fair thing to say.
That is fair. It was just I think like the wording that you had said came off a little differently to me, and I just chuckled to myself. That's all.
Also, how could I not have listened to her? She talked about it.
No, I know, but
she
talked about it a little, like a lot. So I wouldn't blame you if you tuned out a little bit.
Hey,
I love you, Brittany.
Yeah, I love you and Stickly too, Steimer.
Okay,
Stickly.
What's that?
Stickly, the little popsicle stick. Was that Nickelodeon?
Yeah, from Nickelodeon.
Yeah. Never mind.
Nickelodeon, right?
Someone out there.
Anyways.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to wrap this segment up. We'll have to talk about PixelJunk Monsters next week after I get a chance to play it. Sorry, Brandon. Sorry, Brittany.
That's all good.
Just tell me one thing. One word. Is it as amazing as I'm hoping it's going to be?
Jolly.
Jolly. It's good. It's very fun.
Dancing.
Jolly good show, Gov.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun.
Okay, great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take another quick break because we know this is a long one. Thanks for sticking with us. But when we come back, we got to talk to Brandon Jones about what's happening over there at Easy Allies. So
we don't need no Easy A talk when we can talk about PixelJunk. Can I?
Yeah, we're dancing to like
Okay,
raise
well,
the
we'll
towers
I want to
right
talk
now.
about how Easy Allies is playing PixelJunk.
perfect. We'll
That's
do
what
it
I
right
want.
after the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the final segment of What's Good Games. All right, Mr. Brandon Jones is here, as you've been listening to all episode. We will talk about PixelJunk Monsters too, about how Easy Allies is playing it. But I wanted most of the people listening and watching to the show do know about the Allies, but for people that don't, could you just give a brief rundown of who you guys are and what you guys do? Because I think what you guys do is pretty fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We are a total of 9 gentlemen from various ages and walks of life that have interests in many, many different genres of video games and films and manga and comic books and TV shows and stuff like that, but primarily games. And we try to keep our offerings on YouTube and Twitch as diverse as possible. We have been known to build Gundams and Legos on Twitch. We do our group stream on Tuesday nights. We have our big podcasts. We have a couple other podcasts, movie podcasts. One that's our main podcast is more news focused. But we also do reactions to major events when they happen. That's most of what we're going to be doing during E3 and all the press conferences and everything. And if you are familiar with game trailers, as if that's a name that pops up in your brain, I think as we move further from that, I think that was one of the biggest developments this year at Judges Week, where I was like, "Hi, I'm Brandon from Easy Allies." I'm going to leave it at that. It's like before, I'd be like, we used to be game trailers. Like, oh, yeah. And so I think we're a little more awareness now as we meet more people to get more familiar with our new entity. But we used to be game trailers, pretty much the exact same crew from gametrailers.com. Now at Easy Allies. But we, much like you and a lot of other successful enterprises in games, are crowdfunded through Patreon. And that has... I've been in this biz for a very long time, and it is now totally new thing. And it's like we're kind of rewriting the rules and discovering new ones, and kind of molding this whole thing to what we want it to be because of the support that we get, which continues to amaze us. I think by now I thought I'd get used to it, but it still blows me away. The generosity of people and the support that we get is pretty dreamy. So lucky to have the job I do.
No,
Well, you guys put out some great content, sir.
Thanks, Britt.
Yeah.
You guys do too. I love that everybody just has their own style and voice, with the support that we get and the way that we can operate the businesses that we have allow us to be ourselves. And so I find with our community, it's kind of like this endless loop of gratitude where we're like, thank you so much for supporting us. And like, thank you so much for doing content. It's like, well, we couldn't do the content unless we support you. It's like, well, I support you because you do the content. We're like, let's both just shut up and enjoy each other and stop, Like every time we have a meetup, it's like we got to get through 20 minutes of that before we can finally be like, so what have you been playing, or where are you from, or what do you do?
Yeah.
So.
I understand that because it's when you talk to people, it's sometimes it's hard to just say thank you, and it's an interesting dynamic when we get to meet people for the first time. At meetups, I know that the Allies do meetups, and we've had a couple of meetups for What's Good. Our last one at PAX East had such an amazing turnout, and getting to meet people that we interact with, on Facebook or in YouTube comments or on Twitter, and like putting a face to that on-screen persona is always such a fantastic moment to be like, hey, you're a person that listens to the show and supports what we do. And there's such an amazing sense of camaraderie is maybe a good word to use there around that, about and also a sense of like appreciation, this idea of like, wow, it like means so much to us as creators that people listen to our show, and not just listen, but go one step further and help financially support the kind of content that we're making, because it's It's hard. Brandon and I have been making content in video games for a long time. And Brandon, you've been doing it, like Game Trailers was really a giant innovator in the space. I mean, you've really seen trends come and go over your time, making video game content. What to you has really kind of stood the test of time?
Boy, I don't know. I think that's the great thing about it is there's no game. Even YouTube is kind of taking a back seat to streaming. I think that for me is kind of the most exciting thing about where we're at right now. I see the most potential in doing really fun stuff live. And it was only, I remember like back at GT when Ustream and Twitch first came out and we were dabbling in that. And that seemed like so scary and so weird, like seeing a chat going and now it's like, I can't live without it. It's so much fun, to have that direct communication and that direct relationship with the communities. And so my wife is an actress. She does a lot of improv stuff. And so it's exciting to see hyper RPG and, of course, oh my God! Hello, Felicia Day's team. What is the
Geek and Sundry?
Geek and Sundry.
Geek and Sundry, duh. And Critical Role and all, and just this kind of merging of Hollywood and this gaming community to create stuff that has this production value of something you might see on television, but it's much more personable and approachable, and is kind of at its best when it fails, and when things don't go perfect, and I think a lot of people are very attracted to that, and just kind of breaking down that fourth wall of entertainment and really getting to know their entertainers. And so that's what was crazy for me with crowdfunding, is seeing people spending like more money on us than they would on something like Netflix, and being like, we are not at all like on the level of a lot of this other entertainment that I enjoy. And so I think what I've keep coming back to more and more in the current climate is that attachment that people are like, yeah, I'm really into Game of Thrones and I'll pay a top dollar to enjoy that type of entertainment, but like I'm not going to be on a first name basis with the creators of that show or the cast or the writers. But here I am, having questions responded to, or there's definitely people that have been with us ever since the GT days that, when we're on the podcast and it's like, here comes a question from Mike Hook, and it's like, good old Mike Hook, here's this like a user that we've known for years. I've never met him, but like I feel like I know him. I feel like that person's family. And so it's that the one thing, Andrea, from doing content for this long, is like there's just never been a constant. There's never been one thing that we can go back. I think reviews might be that thing that we started doing video reviews in 2006, and like we've gotten better at them, I think, but we're still kind of doing the same format. And so I think that'll always be our bread and butter. Is play a game, write a script, I'll voice it, one of us will cut it, and, spit one of those out, move on to the next one.
Do you still voice all of the reviews?
I do, and what's the best is people think I play all of them too. And I'm not going to be the one to dissuade people from that opinion. It's like, yes, I do. I played Persona 5
I've played
and
every
that
video
shooter
game
simultaneously. It's rough. It's a hard job.
So how many different shows do you have?
I should have that number on hand.
No, you don't. I understand.
Know.
You have a ton, but like a ballpark?
20 something, yeah, probably.
That's freaking awesome, dude.
Wow.
We have 4 different podcasts. We have and it's tough because like we have shows we do on Twitch, but those are much different from the shows that we produce. And we have like a retrospective series. We have reviews and previews that we do. We have one of the things we've tried to do more is package our preview coverage into different types of formats. So we have a series called Checking Out, which is like, we don't have time to play this, but let's do like an hour stream and then take that hour stream and kind of accordion that into like 10 minutes. So you can just get a real quick vibe of us being like, whoa, this game's fun. Okay, I will never play that again because there's just too much stuff. But maybe you can get the vibe of like, that seems like something I would enjoy. Ben Moore created a show called Don't Skip, which is like, either if this game just came out or if it's 20 years old, this is something I love and let me explain why, and you please don't pass on this game if you just even have a passing interest in it. And then, like I said, weird streams like Gundam building that we do that like they started doing as a joke, and their community's like, I love watching you just build Gundams for 4 hours because it's a great opportunity to like really communicate with our chat and with our Twitch audience, and just kind of goof around with them, and they show us the stuff that they were building, and I'll come in and maybe build a Lego or two while they're doing that stuff. And fun shows that we'll try and work out, some don't, and then because of the nature of crowdfunding, we get that opportunity to maybe sunset one thing and move on to something else, or evolve something, our community comment shows, now community showcase. It's gone from me just reading stuff, which I thought would be of value to people because I do so much voiceover. It's like, maybe you would enjoy me reading what you have to say. And that kind of evolved into like, why don't you just create something and we'll watch that, music or, videos or pieces of art or photographs from some vacation that you took. And it's fun to get to know our community. I think that's like the biggest plus of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been one of those things that we get asked all the time about like what it's like to be creators and what it's like to work with a platform like Patreon. And I just always keep going back to, the intimacy of it. And, we had Alana Pierce on the show a little while back, and she was talking about her Patreon experience and about how she gets to kind of let her hair down, so to speak, on her Patreon and kind of let loose and be who she is and not have to have some kind of professional pretense when she's on camera. One of the things she talked about was how she's like, oh yeah, I drink on my Patreon. So like you'll see me do drunk videos because it's my Patreon, and why not? Because it kind of feels like a safe space for a lot of creators, particularly for us as women, having that space where we can kind of have a real conversation and know that people aren't going to immediately troll us in the comments is such a luxury and a privilege to be able to know that we have this group of confidants that we can share our funny moments with in a really kind of creative space to do that. I really love that about Patreon. Steimer, do you have any things about like this creator lifestyle that you really love? Because I know that you kind of got into it solo. You started your own thing, and then you joined up with us. Is there something about being a creator that you really love?
Not to put you on the spot, Steimer.
Not to put you on the spot or anything. I mean, honestly, the main thing I love is that I get to do it with you guys. I know that sounds dumb, but like,
not
as
at all.
much as I love the community and building that base, I think it's more important to me the fact that I've like built such a strong relationship with you guys. That's not really anything to do with content creation, I suppose, but that to me is the main draw of it all. And I think it's hard. That's a hard question for me to answer because I've always been someone where I'm like, I like content creation, I dabble in it, but there'll definitely be a time where I just ghost off the internet. Like, expect that to happen one day. I'll just delete all my shit and be gone. Like, because I don't.
Give us a heads up before you do that, though.
Just a heads up. Oh, I will. Yeah, you guys will know. Don't worry about that. It's not for quite some time, but I'm just saying, like, I'm gonna hit that age where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, and I'm just like, deuces, I'll be out. But
So it's more of like a camaraderie, friendshipy, like we're all in this together. Yeah. No, that's understandable. Sure.
Because I think there can be, there is a lot of toxicity in this environment. And I think what the problem is that the quick and easy fix is to tell people, hey, don't be mean. Like, don't aggressively attack somebody who has different ideals than you. And at the risk of saying something unpopular, I think the more finer tuned exploration of those issues that are facing our community is, well, you can. Just there's a way to do it. There's a way to respectfully tell someone you're crazy. And like, I think a lot of times you have people, playing games where this stuff is rife, where like, your Fortnites or your, Overwatches or your communities that unfortunately are these amazing games that just have so much anger and so much, adversity at play in their communities. And so I think one of the things that I hope that we do is have as many disagreements as possible live in front of our community so they can see how we overcome those hurdles and how we have two people that are like, what is wrong with your brain that you have this opinion about games, and how can we sort that out? And how ultimately, even if we haven't convinced each other at all, we can still coexist and still, like, we gave Last Guardian Game of the Year, and Ian Hank is like beside himself. Like every time it comes up, he's like, I hate that game so much. And we're just like, yeah, that's fine. I need that opinion, I might not agree with it, but I need it. I need you around to say that. And it's neat. Like you were saying, the camaraderie, Steimer, it's neat to know these guys.
You gave Last Guardian Game of the Year?
Yes. It was a popular vote. I did not vote for it because I didn't play it. I don't remember.
Table that for another time.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't know if I've screamed so much at a television before.
right? And again, it's like, Ian's like, here was my experience with Last Guardian, and Blood, who was probably one of our biggest champions of that game, was like, I didn't have that experience at all. Not like something different, or I can kind of see what you're saying. I had no problems. Like, at no point in the game did that Trico not do what I wanted it to do.
What?
And Ian's like, the exact opposite. He's like, I kept being like, no, please get up, And so I think that's indicative of really, and there's just, even us doing reviews and assigning scores to things or picking something for game of the year, it's like, that's not the game of the year. It's the Easy Allies game of the year. Whereas I love having different opinions. I love having different scores. I love seeing what the top and the bottom is. And when I attach a score to a game, where did I end up? Oh, I'm on the bottom. Look at that. Like, I'm one of the people that didn't like it. And that doesn't mean the other people are wrong. I think we need to move not only to acceptance of other people's opinions, but enjoyment of other people's just completely polar opposite opinions from our own, because it's just always going to be there. It's always going to happen. We're never going to find common ground ever. The common ground has to be, well, I'll just put up with you.
If
deal.
everyone thought like you, man, the world would be such a better place. Amen.
Well, and it's probably really presumptuous to be like, we're changing things, but I just hope all our little, camps, Kind of Funny and Giant Bomb and you guys and us and Game Attack and these groups that will kind of show, for better or worse, how we can coexist and how we can say mean things to each other in a positive way.
No, because I was like, I'm kind of mean sometimes, and I know I hear myself saying them, but I'm like, oh well. It's just like,
I mean, that's not really the attitude we're talking about, Steimer, but
I know, but like sometimes I'm
it's
like,
okay.
well, it happened. Okay.
No, but I see what you're saying, because Brandon, not you, Steimer, because in our Facebook group, for example, it's a closed Facebook group, but we do get a lot of people who join it who really aren't even familiar with what's good games. They just see what's good games and they take that for what it says, and they join the group because they think it's a page, just a random page about video games. So we'll get people in there, and we have a fantastic community. We're all very accepting and welcoming, but you get the random person in there who will post something toxic. And what I love about our community is that people don't jump down their throat. They're constructive. They're saying like, hey, you're allowed to have that opinion, but here's a constructive way to look at it, because we've built such a wonderful community, is that then that person becomes a fan of ours and a fan of the show and a fan of the community, because they've learned like, oh, I think, some people just don't know how they come across on the internet, but if you can teach them, there's a constructive way to have your comments. You can feel the way you feel, and I'll respect your opinion, but you just have to be careful the way it comes across. And I agree. It might be a small change, but I think the communities that we've built are making those changes. And it's awesome.
And it's messy. Again, you nailed it, where you don't know how people are going to react to stuff that you're saying. So many times I'll say something out loud, think to myself like, ooh. Especially because I cut our podcast, and so after the fact, I'm like, I botched that comment, or I didn't really get that across, or I could see a bunch of people that would be offended or frustrated about me saying that. And so I think it's like, if you see consistently adversarial behavior, if you see someone who's like, clearly that person just wants to pick a fight all the time, as opposed to someone who's like, oh, sorry, I didn't know. I really had no idea that was in poor taste, or that would be perceived that way. And so it's really, to me, a process. Like, I still have so much to learn about people. Our society is changing so fast. And it's interesting that the gaming industry is so global already that we don't really bat an eye at playing a game in a different language. Like, I was playing Final Fantasy 11 in 2002 with an entire Japanese team of people that did not speak English, and I didn't speak Japanese, and the translation system in Final Fantasy 11, you could actually be like you heal, I'll be tank, and like, so it's fun to to kind of like see these barriers come down and see people get more eager to meet other people in different walks of life and learn stuff about them. I think one of the most interesting things when we first started Twitch streaming was I would like sign on and be like, good morning, and like chat was just like, good afternoon, good evening, like, it's like, oh yeah, of course, you're in Australia, it's a totally different time of day.
They're in the future.
Yeah,
it's true. No, I think that this is all really awesome stuff, and I think that like, thank you to everyone who's in our community and to everyone who's in the Allies community for being part of it, because there's a lot of, as Brandon said, there's a lot of toxicity out there, and we are really lucky that we get to be part of communities that aren't that way. And obviously it's a lot of cultivation and curation, and Miss Brittany, you do such a fantastic job on all of our social channels. I always love watching her like banhammer people. She tries to have a teachable moment first. And then when the teachable moment is clearly not happening, it's like, goodbye. And that's been such a liberating feeling, because I've come from organizations where it was like every view counts, every click counts. It doesn't matter what they're saying in the comments as long as they're clicking and viewing and getting that impression, which will ultimately lead to a dollar being made somewhere. And that can be like really detrimental to your psyche after a while.
No, man.
That's like letting somebody pay you to punch you in the face or something. You know, like on a much different level. But you know, there's that abuse there. There's like something there where you're just like, why would you, if you made it that, like, you would never do it. So why not? Anyways, that was a weird tangential.
No, I get what you're saying. They punch you in the heart, Steimer.
Yeah.
Oh.
In the brain.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's true. They really do. So Brandon, you wanted to talk about how the allies are playing PixelJunk Monsters 2.
Well, this actually can speak to another thing that's just so great about our jobs is, I always grew up and I always had friends who were playing video games. I think I don't know how many friends I've made in the last 20 years that don't. It always just kind of like, it's interesting where I'll see somebody at a party and I'm like, do you play games? I don't know. They're like, no, not really. And it's like, well, I'm going to talk to you about them. So sorry. But
well, that's my one party
neat.
Trick. So you're going to have
It's neat to experience a game like PixelJunk that just comes up in conversation, and I'm like, yeah, I'm familiar with the name PixelJunk, but I was on Ben's podcast, Frame Trap, and he's like, Jones, you like tower defense, right? And I was like, yes, I do. He's like, I played this really fun game. You should check it out. I'm like, I will. And then we get to, there's obviously the extra encouragement that not only am I going to play this game and enjoy it, and I can talk to my friends about it, but my friends are also my coworkers, and the next time I'm on a podcast or on a show like this, I can talk about my opinions. So it is kind of like work that, like, oh, I really need to get that third rainbow for work. Like,
yeah. No,
and so it's such a joy to have not only this close-knit group of my 8 coworkers that I get to share experience with, or pick up these weird little indie games or stuff that might be completely off my radar, but also getting Twitter followers and people like, hey, I saw this thing, did you know about this? Or I heard you mention this name, I also like that director, you might like this. And I feel blessed to just get so many good recommendations. Too many. There's so much good stuff out there.
Yeah, indeed.
TV shows are rough. So it's like, you should watch this 15-episode TV show. And you're like, yeah, I would love to.
But
yeah, you say that, but games are still
games are way longer
than TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And way more involved.
I feel bad because I know people that are film reviewers and people that actually, I have a extensive theater background in my youth. I don't really experience so much of that now, but I know people that are just like, oh, I have to review, these movies. And it's like, oh, boo-hoo. Do you know how long Divinity Original Sin 2 is, man? Like, do you have any idea?
40 hours longer.
Even PixelJunk, man. It's a smaller game, but we're still talking like 8, 10, maybe 12 hours, depending on how focused you are. It's like, oh, God.
No, dogs are always welcome on our show.
Yeah.
No need to apologize.
Your dog has never made an appearance on our show, Brittany.
Oh, that's right. Well, I mean, how the hell am I going to do that? He's 80 pounds. I mean, I guess I could pick him up in my lap. I'll die, but that's fine. I can make sacrifices. You won't die.
You've done it before.
Yeah, it's true.
But not for as long as we record.
So
it would be like a quick hi and a goodbye.
Monsters 2 is the game.
Yes.
Brittany, did you play the original Monsters?
No.
Brandon, did you?
No, not at all. I think it was PSP and PS3, right?
I played other PixelJunk games, but I don't think I played Monsters. I definitely played PixelJunk Shooter.
You guys.
No, how I learned about it was we were watching, Jason and I were watching, I can't believe I just spaced on the name, Kind of Funny Games Daily. God, I was like, what was that show again?
My show?
It's been a long show. Anyway, and then I think you guys were going through the upcoming games, and you said PixelJunk Monsters 2, and he freaked out because he played PixelJunk on PS3, and he was like, oh my God, we gotta play this, and so we did. That's why I played it. And I had a lot of fun with it. The co-op was really great.
Yeah,
fun experience.
I loved Monsters. I played the shit out of that game because I'm a giant tower defense fan, and there's just not enough tower defense on console anymore. It's almost all on mobile, which I don't mind, but until the next Kingdom Rush game comes out.
Yeah, they're all pretty cookie cutter, excuse me.
Yeah. So
Cookies are good.
Steimer's like, I'm hungry. So Monsters 2 incorporates some 3D elements, which I think is pretty neat, where you can, you've always been able to kind of zoom in and zoom out, but now you can zoom like kind of all the way in and kind of see things from a more 3D perspective. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't necessarily have like gameplay benefits beyond like getting elevation ideas. You can tell like, oh, that tree is really high up, so if I put a tower up there, it'll have a little bit more range and see more. But you can also kind of tell just from looking top down. I think it feels like I'm in a model. It feels like it's like Beetlejuice when they're like actually in the town running around. Kind of has that vibe. Like some people do that where they'll go out and take up pictures of cities, but like the detail is so big it looks like it's like a model almost. It looks like everything kind of looks fake. It has that vibe, and so it's just fun to just hit R2 and zip into that mode just to like, this looks cool. Okay, back to the game.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty pumped that this is on the Switch because this is the game that I'm going to take with me everywhere. And I completely forgot that it was coming out, and I'm super excited that I'm actually going to download it after the show is done. But for people who don't know the game and aren't familiar, it's essentially like a colorful top-down tower defense game. You've got these little monsters that kind of have like a tribal tiki vibe to them. That they're almost like they're wearing these little masks, but and then you have a hut with a house, and you've got these. I always just called them babies. What is the name of them? Chibis.
Little chibis
are the things that you have to protect that are inside your house. And obviously, if the monsters get to your house, they eat the chibis, and you don't want that. And so you have to, so you have to protect your base by setting up towers. And there's a couple of different types of towers, and each of those towers corresponds to a different type of enemy in your traditional tower defense style. And so the fun part about the game is kind of figuring out which different terrains are good for which towers, and how fast the towers work with the enemies, and like the goodness that you get from a tower defense gameplay loop. It's just good.
The biggest change from other tower defense games that I've played, because I'm like quite prolific in the genre, is where your character is very important. It's like it's like the backbone of the experience, where like some games, like you brought up Kingdom Rush, have like heroes. So it's like, oh, I have my hero character and I can tell that person where to go, but then that person might just fight autonomously, or maybe I'll tell them like when to use specific moves, or like move them out of danger when their health is low. But then just by tapping stuff on like mobile, or by clicking it with the mouse and keyboard, I'm going over here and setting up those towers, where like you can only build stuff when that hero physically goes over and builds it. And like you can only upgrade towers when you physically go over there and either spend crystals or like stand there dancing and like upgrade it over time. And like as they go up in level, like that meter will go more slowly. So it's nice. You always have something to do, because a lot of times when you're playing tower defense, you're just watching it happen. And so you're always thinking like, where should I go? Where am I best spending my time right now? Is it going into the skirmish to collect coins, or is it standing on this tower and dancing to level it up, or just run over and look at stuff?
Out of context, that's the greatest.
Yeah, just that sentence.
Standing on this tower and dancing.
Do I want coins or dance? What do I want?
They dance on the towers.
No, I know, but it's just like, if you didn't know this game and you're just like hearing that I don't know. It's a funny image.
So yeah, it's different. It's very different from a lot of tower defense games I've played, and just an adorable aesthetic and challenging. When you get up to the higher difficulty levels, you cannot make a mistake. It's a little frustrating to put 40 minutes into a mission, and then like the second to last wave, they're like, oh, by the way, that little path up there, 40 flying dudes. You're like, I didn't know. Damn it. Like,
and then you have to do it all over again. Yeah.
But then I do and have fun. So
yeah,
I don't know what that says about me.
I like how you can customize your Tiki Man with different masks and shells. I didn't know that customization was an option this time around.
And it doesn't take long to build up the currency to buy like that one or two masks you want, and then you're fine. I've been spending more of it just to be a completionist, and just like gotta get them all.
Sounds right. Well, I'm definitely going to be buying this.
Fun.
So excited. They did a free-to-play mobile thing a little while back, but I don't think it really did very well.
Ooh.
Do
And there's a
remember
demo
that?
of the first level that you can play if you want to check it out. I'm assuming it's on Switch. I played it on PS4 and I played the demo on PS4 too. But you
Just
can,
buy it. It's good.
or you just buy it.
And it's only $15.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you
neat.
buy
I thought it was
crystals?
like
Other-
20 or 30 or something. I got a code, so I didn't.
Oh, it says
Yeah.
$14.99 digital.
Badass.
Yeah, that's
That is
super
a dynamite.
cheap. Can you buy?
price
Is there
tag for
other
that game.
microtransactions? Can you buy crystals?
Nope.
Damn.
Wow, I think that's the only time someone's been like,
Damn.
there are no microtransactions.
Sometimes it's nice to speed up things. Okay. Generally, I
I'm
don't. I don't like it
I'm
when
right with you, Renee.
I don't like it when the gameplay loop is dependent on it, right? Like if you take like a tiny
Right.
tower, for example, but when there's like this little element that you're like, this is a kind of a pain point for me. Can I make it go faster? That would I would
Can I make this go
Yeah.
away with money?
I would pay to make it go away. Well, Brandon, this has been really fun. You should come back
Yeah.
again sometime.
Yeah.
We're gonna see you at E3. We'll high five at some point. I know that you guys are doing streaming from your studio, right? For
Yeah.
most of it.
Which is not close to downtown, so
No, but you're gonna be around the show floor at least at some point, yeah?
heck yeah.
Gotta play those games.
With bells on. E3 is the best. E3 is Christmas every year. It's my favorite part of this job every time.
Yep.
It's the most stressful, painful part of the job as well.
Yes.
But
So worth it.
it is just so awesome on so many fronts, and there's so many games. There's so many embargoes that have yet to lift, Andrea, from Judges Week. And I'm just like, I can't wait to talk about that game.
I know.
So many cool things that are like rumored to be there, and so many. So we've had so many leaks, but I just don't care. It's still like I can't wait to see so much of this stuff.
Yeah, I was supposed to be on. So we did our E3 predictions as called by a Magic 8-Ball. If you guys missed that episode, I highly recommend you take a look
Nice.
at it. We're going to
Nice.
be keeping a tally mark as to what comes true and what doesn't. But I was supposed to also do the Kind of Funny Games Cast E3 predictions, and I told Greg and Tim, I was like, I gotta bow out. I can't do it. I've signed too many legal documents saying I've seen things that I can't talk about, that I can't do any more prediction shows because I know so many secrets. But
Yeah.
the good news is that despite the fact that I know some of what's coming down the pipeline and some of it is really fucking cool, you guys, there's still so much more that is an unknown, and that's what I love about this job too, Brandon. And it's like we've been doing this for a while. Brittany's been doing it a while. Steimer's been doing it a while. We know lots of people in the video games business that have been in this business for what feels like a hot fucking minute.
It's been a hot
was neat
fucking minute.
It was neat at Judges Week to reconnect with, Jeff Gerstmann and some other people from that have been to every E3. It's
Yeah.
like, wow.
Like Ben Silverman
amazing.
over at Yahoo, he was
Yeah.
just tweeting the other day about how painful it is to make E3 appointments, and I was like, "Oh, Ben, you haven't gone full jaded journo, have you?" And then
I
some
saw
people were
that.
like, "Oh yeah, it must be hard to drink free drinks while playing video games and getting paid. It's, oh, woe is you." And he was like, "Yeah, man, those Coronas, you can only drink so many of them." And I was like, "You motherfucker."
Oh man.
Um,
No, that's something I've noticed too. Is I feel like sometimes people think it's the cool thing to bitch about E3. Yes, E3 is stressful and it's a lot of work, and you will go a little crazy. But I think at the end of the day, if you don't love it and you don't enjoy being there and doing it, maybe the industry just isn't for you, man. Or maybe this isn't for you. Whatever. Just I don't know.
Goodbye.
It's just one of my pet peeves. Yeah. Bye.
Brandon's giving the old salute, sayonara.
Yeah.
It's time for you to go. Time to let somebody else take up the mantle and have a shot at it. I agree.
Yeah.
I get the closer we get, and we're so. You guys, we're like by the time the show airs, we'll be like 1 week away from from
God.
EA kicking things off, and it's gonna be a
This
treat
generation
for
is
you
kicking
guys.
ass. All the consoles are selling really well. I think this is going to be an E3 for the books. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Heck yeah! All right, Brandon.
Blah.
So if the folks want to find what you guys do, to find you, where can they go?
Easy Allies will work on most things. If you want to go Facebook, if you want to just Google, we have a website, easyallies.com. If you want to go to Patreon, if you want to go to Twitter, if you twitch.tv/easyallies. But if you want to donate and you want to see how what you can get from helping us on Patreon, Patreon's great. Otherwise, easyallies.com is fun because it takes you to YouTube. You can see our schedule in your time zone. It translates, which is fun. Yeah, there's just all sorts of crazy stuff that we do. It's neat because hopefully what we try to provide is something where I see the opinion a lot of times from people that are like, yeah, I just watch the podcast. I don't like any of their other stuff. And that's fine. Like, you don't need to absorb it all. Like, you can just maybe find that one show. We have a tabletop show where we play D&D. Like, to a lot of people, like, that's their show. That's the only thing that they watch. And they just enjoy that crew and their adventures that they go on. So hopefully you'll find something that you dig.
I would be surprised if they didn't. I personally am a fan of the Huber hype, especially around E3. Still got some of the best reactions, if not the best reactions in the business. Just the pure unbridled enthusiasm that man has. I just don't know how he does it. But thank you so much for coming on the show this week. You are wonderful. We look forward to saying hi to you at E3 and connecting there. Again, easyallies.com if you guys want to check out what they do. And don't forget that we have a bunch of new Patreon changes that rolled out since it is now the month of June. So if you guys want to, I know, right? If you guys want to see all of those,
the fear.
If you missed the anniversary stream and didn't get those details, again, patreon.com/whatsgoodgames. I know I said that this episode was brought to you by our Patreon, and I never actually did a full spiel on it, but you guys have heard us talk about it. If you guys like what we do and you want to support us, just $1 a month will get you access to our brand new exclusive vlogs, which are on our Patreon. Plus, of course, we've got other cool stuff. You can get the postcard, you can get a signed Polaroid, you can get secret segment. Check it out. Patreon.com/whatsgoodgames. All right, everybody,
Congrats
that's going to do it for us. Now that we have cracked the 3-hour mark.
Woo!
Woo! Have a great weekend,
proud.
everybody. We will be back next week with a special episode heading into E3. Take care. We'll see you next time.